It gives me huge pleasure today to be your host and MC for this fantastic session, which is going to take you right around Ireland. We're going to go as far south as Limerick, Cork if you include me and Orla actually. We go as, in fact, Waterford if we include Orla. I should be, she corrected me on that before now and she was right. And then we're going to go as far north, as far as Donegal, where Mary McKenna is going to be tuning in. We have a speaker from Galway, we have a speaker from Sligo. We have speakers literally from a wide part across the country. So it's going to be a fantastic day. A couple of things that I want to take you through. First of all, I want to take you through the broad running order. So as you can tell, we started promptly. We will finish promptly also from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. today. And the first part of the day is going to be focusing on scale. So we have three really wonderful women who are going to talk to you about their experience of building and executing scale. And we're going to have a great chat with them. That's all going to take place in the morning. And from 10 a.m. until 11:30, we're going to take a 10-minute break. And then we're going to bring you back in then for a conversation with a panel of digital influencers. And we're going to take the focus into that whole area of digital marketing and how that has grown over time. After that, then we are going to have three pitchers who are going to be looking for your vote, and your vote, the fate of these three pitchers and the prize that they are going to have is entirely in your hands. So they're going to have a fantastic prize from, they've got a €750 cash prize from Mayo and Roscommon Local Enterprise Office, as well as some mentoring from Grant Thornton. So there's going to be three of them. They are going to pitch for your vote. You will make the decision about who wins, and that's going to take place towards the end of the session. And we are going to finish then, as I say, promptly at 1 o'clock. Now, lots of social media going on. To be fair to the team in Empower, they have just been fantastic in spreading the word over the past while. So please do engage with them. They're at empower.ie on Instagram, at empowerher.ie, I should say, on Facebook, and also empowerher.ie as well on Twitter. The hashtag that we're using for today is #EmpowerConf. And I am assured that there will be lots of support for anybody who is tweeting and tagging. We will make sure to give you lots of retweets and so on like that. So just want to mention that. And of course, we would love to enable digital networking to take place right around the country through this medium as well. So please do participate in that way. Okay, now speaking of this, I just also want to, try out one of the functionalities, because we're going to use most of the functionalities of Zoom today. But what I just want to do is, as you are tuning in now, we've people from literally every part of the country at this stage. Just going to launch a poll just so that we have got practice at this. The reason that, so you can see here now, I've got the poll running. The reason that I wanted to do this so early is so that people have an ability to be able to make sure that you can vote and that you know exactly how to vote when it comes to the pitches, because that is so important. We can't let anything go wrong there. So I can see 5% of you have voted. Basically, we just want to get a sense, your feeling on online networking. How do you feel about it? Do you want more of it when we get to a different normal? Are you quite happy the way it is now? So as you can see, I now have 34% of you voting. So I'm really delighted to see that lots of people are well used to this function, as I anticipated, but we do not want to take any chances when it comes to the pictures later on. So just going to give you more of a chance. More and more of you are joining all the time, as I can see here now. 64% of you have voted. We're coming up to almost a minute. I'm going to switch it off in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and here is where I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to stop right there. And let me share the results with you. This is what you're saying. So 32% said love online, easy, on-time global access. 13% of you said bring back the in-person version ASAP. 19% of you said going to attend more online events long into the future. 21% of you said that you missed the serendipity of in-person networking. 40% of you are open-minded to a hybrid, and that is the winner in this case. 11% of you said, give me the interaction, I'm happy anyway, and 31% of you said, Online offers much greater flexibility for regional and international networking. So it seems to be that it is a mix, and that's great to see. Great to see. All right, that we're on the right track here. So what I'm absolutely happy with now is that we know exactly how to use the polls, which is going to be super important for later on. Okay, please do post your thoughts into the chat. I'm well able to see there that there's lots of chat going on. I can see that there's people answering each other's questions, so that's all brilliant. So delighted to see that. So please do keep your questions coming. We're really happy to do that as well. Now, I also want to mention that when it comes to posting in a question for the speaker, please do use the Q&A pod, okay? So if you just hover on your screen and look down at the bottom, you will see that there is a box for Q&A. So if you click there on the Q&A box, please do feel free to post in your questions, and we also have the upvote feature is enabled, so you can also vote on other people's questions as well. We'll get to all of that when we get to the guest speakers. Okay, wonderful. Now, so what we're going to do is, just before I'm going to bring in Maria to introduce you to the whole idea of what today is all about and the rationale behind it, etc., I'm going to ask you to do one more thing, and that is I am going to share my screen. Well, sorry, before I'm going to do that now, I'm just going to go into the chat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a message to everybody, and I'm going to ask you to please click on a link, okay? And this is going to be the way in which we're going to take your feedback at different stages throughout the day. Now I'm going to share my screen as well. So what I just want to do is just go and to click on the link, okay? So click on the link that I have there in the platform. And if, just in case you have any issue with that, I am also going to ask you to, you can also access it another way. So what you should be able to see now is, can you just go to menti.com? And what I hope that you can see now is that you can see on the code, if you go to the top of the screen and you type in the code, what I'm just looking to see here is what experience we have in the room today. So we have people, as I say, from right around. So if you click on the link, or alternatively, you can go, click on the link that I put in the chat, or alternatively, you can go to menti.com. I'm just going to check, Maria, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, so all I'm looking to do, 17 people right now have actually told us where some experience that they've had. So you can see that the balls are literally coming from all over the country. It is no surprise that I picked green because of the fact that they're coming from all over the country. Now, what I'm intrigued by is we've had 32 responses. I'm looking here, still lots and lots of people joining us. 39 responses now, and 11 of you have experience of pushing out your comfort zone. 7 of you have experience of setting and achieving goals. 8 of you say setting and meeting client expectations. 7 of you, just the first person has now voted there to say they've experience of financing their business. 8 of you with digital marketing, 8 of you managing people. But what's really intriguing about this group so far is that this is a group that is really used to pushing your comfort zone, and that's going to be a big part of our conversation today. So I'm going to let that run in the background. We're going to be checking in every now and again. I have a question over there for you. Lots more people pushing out their comfort zone. 61 of you have voted. As I said, there's lots more joining all the time. So we're going to be leaving that run there from time to time. But in the meantime, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to hand you over to Maria. And I'm going to put the spotlight on Maria, who is going to tell us all about the Empower program and so on, and the amazing woman that she is. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Susan. I think I've just lost my screen. I went on to Minty and now I've lost kind of the actual screen, but I can keep talking anyway, but just to let you know that. Will I keep going? Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you and see you. Yep, perfect.
Okay. Just to kick off, I suppose, to give people the background about Empower, I'll start there because there are people, I suppose, tuning in today that has never heard maybe of Empower, and just to give them the background. So I guess Empower started back in 2016 as an idea. There was a call for funding from the Department of Justice and Equality, and it was all about female entrepreneurship. And we in the iHubs, myself and George is in the iHub in Galway, and Rick, we got together and kind of thought about the female entrepreneurship side of things. We hadn't a lot of females coming through the iHubs. They were coming through some of the New Frontiers. Tony is on the call there. We had some females coming through, but not enough. More males than females. So we kind of said, okay, this is something maybe we need to look at more. So we applied for the funding, and thankfully we got it. And then what happened was we just interviewed some females that had been through the centres to ask them of their experience and what they felt was needed. So that helped us to put together a programme, and we called it the Empower Programme. And at the time it was run just in Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, and we kicked it off there. And if I go back to 2017 or so, we had about 80 people that applied for the first programme. And then in year 2, we had 90 people that applied. And overall, this is giving you a quick synopsis, 64 females actually went through the programme. They would have applied, and we would have done a selection process and then put them through the programme. And from that, just to again synopsize that, what has come from that over the last number of years is there's 134 jobs have been created by all these females, and 6 part-time jobs. We have, I suppose, networked them into the college. That's the advantage in terms of the iHubs. We're connected with GMIT. So what we would have looked was innovation vouchers, innovation partnerships with lots of people would never have heard about. And then looking at pitching for funding, and also the Network Ireland, I want to mention them later on, the Network Ireland groups, going forward and pitching at those awards and all that kind of stuff as well. So I guess that's kind of a little bit of the summary of it. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, just to go back on that, because this event was planned back in April, the end of April. It was meant to be a physical event. We have a little bit of a group as well this evening getting together to close Empower One. And it was all about coming together and having role models, which are here with us today, and kind of people can tune in and just listen to their experiences. And that has worked well over the years. So thanks to everybody that has joined us to listen to this. We're sorry it has to be conducted online, but that's just the way it is. But hopefully it'll go just as well. I guess I was thinking back about it over the last few days, things I've learned myself, I suppose, from working with the 64 females that have come onto the programme. And certain things have come out. I give you some examples, but certain pointers, I suppose. Inclusiveness was a big thing. Supportive environment is a huge thing working with females. Team playing is a big thing. And I'll give a couple of examples. Confidence was a huge thing. I suppose I didn't understand it myself. And then, you know, people would talk to me about it and how they developed over time with confidence was wonderful. Balancing life is a huge thing with females. Time commitment, family. Often I'd sit with some of the females and we talk about different things, and sometimes it's stuff that's gone on personally, and even just being able to talk to somebody about that, or talk to another person on the programme. So I guess some examples on the programme, we had one lady that just had a baby 4 weeks into, I think it was our second programme, she's on the call here, and just the supportive environment that occurred around that. Like, she'd come along, she was breastfeeding at the time, and the other ladies helping her and not being judged, you know, by bringing a baby into the room. I thought that was wonderful. Another lady talked about pitching, her experience in going. Now, this lady is very good at pitching, may I say. Hopefully she's on the call as well. But, you know, she used to talk very honestly about how she felt when she'd have to go and pitch. And, you know, she gave us the example one day of arriving in Houston Station and feeling very unwell, having to go to a big pitch that day and going into the toilets and getting sick, and, you know, just sharing that kind of an experience, that it's okay to feel like that. A lot of the women would talk about walking into a room as well, and the fear of that, which again, it's sometimes difficult to understand that, but a lot of people understood that fear. And the support and family is a big thing with your parents or your partner or whatever, you know, having that support at home and telling you to, you know, go for it and have a go at this, or maybe somebody said, where your mother would say to you, you know, what are you doing setting up your own business? You're a bit mad at the moment, and, you know, we all get those kind of things. But interesting, some pointers as well. Gender is not an issue. I have to say the males in the iHub and various groups, New Frontiers and stuff, you know, they're very supportive of females. I think women have said it themselves. Often it's ourselves that present the hurdles. You know, you know, we get in our own way, as some of them have said, and it's an inner self-belief. And I think that's quite interesting. I think a big thing with Empower as well is the role models, which we have today, and I'm really looking forward to all the speakers. And I myself, background, I played some football, and a big saying with football is, if you cannot see it, you cannot be it. And I think that's a big thing with females. And I know Susan mentioned this morning to me, we heard about McKenna, she'll probably touch on it later, but, you know, seeing people like that, you know, getting, you know, really good roles. Orla's on the call here, president of GMIT. It's wonderful to see, you know, females that are really climbing the ladder, and entrepreneurs on this call today that are, you know, really pushing boundaries. You know, when we can see it, everyone else can feel. I can do that as well. Just to kind of say that, you know, there's plenty more that we have to do. Pitching at the moment is a big thing. So I think being able to see more females getting up and actually pitching in front of audiences is something, you know, I would like to see more of. It's getting better. Also seeing more female investors would be wonderful. I know Mary McKenna is on the call here today, and I think that's something she's really plugging, and I'd like to see more of that myself. So they're the kind of things. I know the pandemic was a big thing as well the last number of months, and I often wonder myself how much it would affect females. Hopefully it hasn't, because I know child minding becomes a big part of, you know, females, and you know, it's just part of life really. Or could be minding older people or whatever. Often the women take those kind of roles. So hopefully it won't affect in the long run, and we want to let it affect it, I suppose. I think that's kind of like, that's my main kind of synopsis of Empower. Sandra will touch on Empower, the new Empower, later. Sandra, I want to welcome her on board. You can't see her at the moment, but Sandra is the new Empower Program Manager. I've stepped back to the iHub role, and a wonderful lady, and she's really moving ahead with the new Empower program, and there's huge demand this year. I think Sandra will touch on it, but I think we've over 200 people at the moment that have applied for the programs, so that's great to see. I want to say a couple of thanks just before I finish off. Susan, because she won't give herself any thanks at all, she is the one that has put all this show together. We're just in the background helping her along, but I want to give her a huge thanks. She's wonderful at what she does, and I'm delighted to have her. I said to her recently I would have had many sleepless nights if I didn't have her on board. I want to give a big thank you to the speakers who have been lined up since April, as I said, well, probably since last January. Lorraine, Niamh, Mary, who are the first three that are on. I can't wait to hear them all speak on various different topics, and I think it's going to be really interesting hearing them. So thank you to them all for not giving up and saying I'm not doing it now because you've postponed or whatever. The three women that are pitching, I have to mention these three ladies: Assumpta, Marina and Niamh. I think I wrote them an email and I said, look, I'm kind of picking you three guys. It was just a pick, because I could have picked, I suppose, many a woman on the program. Just pick them, and I said, please don't say no, because often people say to me, no, I'm not doing that. But thankfully, the three of them, it's a little bit like I was saying, the Richard Branson. If someone offers you an amazing opportunity, you know, you kind of say yes and you think about it, and you know, you'll do it anyway. So thankfully the three of them came back and said yes, we'll do it. I want to mention Brian Reynolds. I know he's on the call. I hope he's tuned in. Brian has done all the work with the three women, getting them ready for this as well today. So big thanks to Brian. He does huge work here in the centre. The three influencers as well, I have to mention. I'm really looking forward to hearing them speak. Sinead, Charlene and Aoife. I know nothing about the whole world of influencing, so if they teach me something, it'll be wonderful today. I'm really behind in all that. Just to mention as well, people who have brought the whole thing together for me. So, you know, it's fine saying we had an Empower program, GMIT, we launched it, but the people in the region that really helped us, you know what I mean? I remember going out and kind of meeting people. I know Mary from the Portershed is on the call today, hopefully Niamh and the GTC. I remember going out to them and saying, look, we have this program, you know, will you help us promote it? Again, a little bit of a saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and Empower was that child. We had Network Ireland as well. I have to mention them, Galway, Mayo, Roscommon at the time. I know we have Donegal, Sligo, Leitrim now as well. They really got behind it. The women joined the networks. I think that was wonderful. They've pitched, they've won some awards, and they really came in behind the program, which was brilliant. The local enterprise offices, I cannot not mention them. They have been hugely supportive. Galway, Mayo, Roscommon initially, and as I said, Sligo, Leitrim, Donegal now. And I just really want to thank them, because without them as well, it's very hard to do this. I have to obviously thank the main sponsors, the Department of Justice and Equality. The funding comes through the ESF Dara, Nicola and Catherine that are there. They've been hugely supportive. They're always there if we need calls or whatever. Grant Thornton as well, I got to mention them as well, because they're giving us, Emer involved in Grant Thornton is giving us support as well today. I hope I'm not leaving out, obviously our own team, just to mention the ladies Sandra mentioned. I want to just mention Michelle, who has been mentioned already, and Maura, and also the iHub, anybody in the iHub, George and all the team there as well that gives us help, and Tony. Thanks to you all. I hope I haven't missed anyone on my own advisory board as well. Again, have been wonderful, the women on that and the guys as well. So if I've missed anyone, I am sorry. It's not intentional, and I hope today is going to be really, really good. And Susan, back to you and Orla.
Thank you so much indeed for that, Maria. And I think you covered quite a lot of ground there. And indeed, it gives me great pleasure now to bring us across to the president of GMIT, and that is Orla Flynn. Orla, first of all, you started in the role at a bizarre time. You have got a slew of huge entrepreneurship and research and innovation and a wide range of other activities behind you. So I think the future looks very, very bright in Galway and the region more widely. But will you tell us a little bit about your vision for female entrepreneurship and the region's development more broadly?
Thanks very much, Susan. Absolutely delighted to be joining you here this morning. I think, as Susan alluded, in a former role, I was involved in supporting particularly female entrepreneurship, research innovation activities. And I started, just to let people know, I started in GMIT. My first day was the 18th of March. And the lockdown had kicked off on the 12th of March, so the halls were all empty when I started. So it's been a very weird 6 months since I started, but it's been greatly heartening to me to see the work being done in GMIT in this area. And again, Maria has thanked everyone, has mentioned everyone, and I just want to say that it's been uplifting for me to see the way that the iHubs are working together in Galway Mayo, and not just in Galway Mayo, but also in our Connacht Ulster Alliance partners in IT Sligo and in Letterkenny IT. And I think this really bodes well for that deep embedding within the entire northwestern region as we move forward to look to becoming a technological university. One thing that really struck me about this event is the title of the event. So spirit, the notion of a spirit of event. I think you've been holding this event for the last 12 years. This is the 13th year, and spirit of entrepreneurship, and it's collaborative. And I think the idea of the spirit of something really speaks to something within. And I think it will resonate with many of the participants in the call today. I know that there are many, many women on the call, and the idea of confidence Maria alluded to as well. Confidence and resilience are so important for any type of career, but particularly so in starting your own business. And I know that nobody's afraid of hard work, but it's all the messy stuff that goes around the hard work. It's the, trying to work with people, trying to bring people along, dealing with all of the other challenges in your life, as well as the hard work on the business. In terms of the confidence and the resilience, I'd also add courage. And for me, and I think you referenced it earlier, Susan, the notion of female leadership. Very often, it's all about just getting on with your job, working as hard as you can, but also putting yourself in a position to gain experience, that later on you look back at a particular experience you've had and you say, well, that was something that really stood to me. But at the time, you're not always planning that. So courage to me is always a big thing. And I feel that for female leadership, very often women need to be pushed over the cliff and have confidence that you will fly. I think as time goes on and as you gain experience and as you gain confidence and resilience, it is like a virtuous circle. You will have more courage to jump off your own cliffs in the future. And that's really just the message I would like to give people today. I'm looking forward to the day. I'll be with you for the first hour. I have to nip out for another meeting then, and I'll be back in, I hope, for the closing of the meeting. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. I want to say a big well done to Maria and all the hardworking team in research, innovation and entrepreneurship in GMIT. Thanks again to all of our supporters out there, and thanks to you, the participants, and looking forward to a really stimulating morning. So thanks, Susan, back to you.
Thanks a million indeed. We appreciate that, Orla, and particularly as well, it's really wonderful that you're going to join us for a significant part of the day. So just as we move into the next, Finola says, brilliant, so true, confidence is key. So absolutely, it's great to hear that message is resonating out there. One of the things that we would like to hear from you now, before we move across to the first of our speakers, is I'm just going to ask you, again, to go back to that link. I'm going to post it again there, but I'm also just going to share the screen. And that is that we just want to ask you a question. And that is, how has your mindset changed since the pandemic? So since the pandemic began, how has your mindset changed? It's just a question that we'd like to hear. We'd like to hear from, you know, in essence, a big part of the Empower program is all about the peer learning and the understanding how people are going. And as Orla mentioned, you know, when you are pushed off the cliff and so on. So as I mentioned, I'm just going to share the link again, but also you can access it by going to menti.com and putting in the code there that appears at the top of the screen. But also, what I'm going to do is I am going to put the link back in there, okay? And I can see, so again, as you can see on my screen, you can see as the responses are coming up, you'll see how they are. So for example, we have people saying they're more resilient, greater work-life balance, taking more initiative in networking, really helped me focus and trust my gut. Every cloud is a silver lining, look for the opportunities the new normal presents. Focus on what I actually want to create, not what I've been doing. More likely to take a chance on something, more able to see what's really important. Change my direction, open my business, realize I can do it. I'm loving this. God, I have to say, this really is a great way to start. I now realize I can do much more than I had thought possible. Now that is really, really wonderful to see. More adaptable. After the panic subsided, I start to see it as an opportunity. More determined as life is too short. So we have well over 100 people now on the call. So there's 29 so far has put in response. I'm just going to give it another minute, and then we're going to move across to Mary. Taking brave steps, open me to new ways of working that really work. Refocus and setting direction. Greater work-life balance showed me more opportunities, more worry, mental stress for business. Have been challenged a lot, but not going to give up. So again, you know, please do keep them coming in there. There's 39 responses, 40 now, and as I say, there's well over 100 people on the call. So it'll be really interesting just to see what you gather from that. And I think, if anything, what your responses are showing us is the resilience that certainly is in the West. And I know it's a key point that Maria often makes, is that really and truly the West deserves so much more kudos than it possibly gets. The reason for that, I'm an NUI Galway graduate myself. I lived in Galway for 4 years, and often we can see, you know, the West of Ireland being a great place to live, and particularly with remote working, how you can have a Dublin job outside of Dublin. Again, as I mentioned, I'm from Cork. You can absolutely have a Galway job, and there's so many great companies and so many great opportunities. And I was a member of the Galway Business Club. It's where I met one of Maria's advisory boards. And I lived and breathed the great attitude that there is in Galway. So it's really interesting to see it literally appearing up here on the screen. So please do keep your comments coming in there. We'll capture them all. We'll give them all back to you later on so that you can see. But this certainly would start anyone's day off on the right note. Now, speaking of starting on the right note, I'm going to go to Mary McKenna, and I can tell that she is tweeting based on the way that she's looking right there. Mary and I go back a long way, and Mary and I have had many a phone call where she sits right there in that spot, and I can always tell when she's taking a selfie of me, of herself and me on the screen, and we appear on Twitter later on. So Mary has extensive experience of raising funding, and she was a founder of Learning Pool, a company that began in Derry and that went on to do amazing things. I first met Mary at a businesswomen's event in Belfast actually 7 years ago, and we've had many adventures since. So I know you'll truly enjoy her. You'll have you're going to learn an awful lot from her. And on that note, Mary, can I ask you to introduce yourself in a much better way than I've done?
Thank you, Susan, and great to be here this morning. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, Maria. Thank you for thanking everybody, Maria. And as you say, it's all about the adventure. You should really only be doing this if it's also a bit of fun along the way, because as Orla mentioned, there's a lot of hard work to be done. So yeah, a bit of fun as well is always nice. So as Susan said, I'm an exited technology entrepreneur. I started an online learning business in Derry. I started it with a co-founder, and I'm just going to mention how important I also think that is for a couple of reasons. So any of you that are sole founders, it's kind of hard on your own because there is so much to do, and you may not have all the skills that you need just in one person. We bootstrapped our business, and again, I'll quickly explain that. It means that you don't take any investment, you just grow the business out of the profits that you make. And as you can imagine, that has its own challenges. So I sold my half of Learning Pool in 2014, 6 years ago. And since then, I've been doing lots of early stage angel investing. I'm usually the first money that goes into a small technology business. And what I look for is a female founding team, a project that is doing something around technology for good, so making the world a better place, and something that I can add value to. So I'm conscious about time, Susan, so I will actually just shut up there. And
okay. Well, one of the things that I personally would like to hear, Mary, and I think it goes into the essence of, you know, spirit of entrepreneurship, as Orla said, it's about going within. What's the difference between the startup mentality and the scale-up mentality? Because in my own experience, startup is about survival, will this work, you know, early validation, trying to get going, trying to get to revenue, trying to get to profit. But scale-up needs to have a different approach. And how would you describe the difference between the two?
Well, I'm going to actually pinch a description from somebody else that I work with. I work with the professor at Oxford University, and he describes this as explore and exploit. And I think that's a good way of thinking about it. So in the startup stage, you are just really trying to find out what your product market fit is and whether or not you've actually really got a business. And as you will all know, particularly the ladies in the audience that have started a business, maybe are already underway with it, most startups pivot. And this is so important that I usually say this twice. Most startups pivot. So there's a couple of like really famous examples of tech companies that have started out as something completely different. Twitter started out as a platform for podcasting. Slack started out as a video game. And Netflix, of course, and everybody probably remembers this, started out as a business that used to actually post DVDs out through the mail. And so all of them realized that their product market fit was different from what they thought it was. And so they pivoted. So I think a scale up is where you have found that niche and you realize that you can start exploiting and scaling into it. A lot of startups try to preserve that kind of startup buzz and startup mentality that they have in their team. So they like to stay scrappy and they like to do things quickly, even as they're growing. And I suppose the other thing to say is that don't forget that at the end of the day, the only real advantage a startup has over anything else that's out there trading is speed and is the ability to do things fast. As you grow into the scale up and things become a bit more formal, it's sometimes hard to keep that initial fast pace that you did everything like at the beginning.
Mary, actually, we've just had a question in here that I think is very worthwhile to put to you at this stage, and that is that how do you find a business partner so that you have someone with you, as lots of people struggle with that? I've had business partners in the past. I married one, which is one way of holding on to him. Sorry, that's a joke. That's a joke. Believe me, if he was on it, he'd laugh himself. So how do you find that business partner? And of course, it's also worthwhile to mention that you have started a new initiative now where you're partnering with people that you've known for a long, long time. I know many of them as well myself. So you're right in the crux of this at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky thing. And I know that Maria and Sandra and whatever will be very conscious about this because I'm sure that they try to do a lot of matchmaking. So you do see accelerators and the likes of the Northern Ireland Science Park run a co-founders program where you can bowl up there with your idea, and hopefully as part of the program you'll find somebody else that you can join forces with. So that kind of manufactured way of manufacturing a co-founder relationship. For me, my co-founder, we'd worked together before and we already knew each other quite well. I suppose, and you will know, everyone on the call will know, there's that whole thing about relationships where there's the storming, norming, another thing, and performing. There's another bit that I can't remember there, but if you go with somebody that you know, it cuts out those first few stages, and you can just get straight onto the business side of things. You know, it's tricky. It's a personality thing as well. I mean, you need to find somebody that you can get on with when things are tough as well as when they're easy. And in terms of like a marriage, you probably see more of your business partner than you do of your co-founder than you do of your partner in life. You know, so it's a serious undertaking.
Actually, Andrea actually asked a very good question, and please do feel free to put your questions in there into chat or into the Q&A. I'll find them wherever they are. Andrea says, can Mary tell us more about how early is early stage?
Do you know, I'm going to give her a terrible answer to this. It depends. Some businesses kind of know what, you know, if you have a drug discovery business, you're probably never early stage because you know where you're going. You take on millions very, very early, and you know, you blow the whistle and off you go. Other businesses, it does take a while, and it takes maybe 3 years to figure out where you're actually going. I mean, I would sort of say that with software businesses, early stage is probably the first 2 years while you're building product and while you're actually getting ready to launch on the market. But it really does depend.
And Mary, on that note, there's lots of people here who are Mary and France. I believe it's forming, storming, norming, and performing. Mary.
Yeah, I just missed out the forming, didn't I?
Another thing, if we could, and the smiley face came after that from Fran. Another question that I think would be really valuable for people here is like, what three piece of advice would you give to people who are fundraising? And I'm not going to pin that down to whether they're actively fundraising, thinking about it, wherever they're coming from. What three pieces of advice would you give to people?
Yeah, I'm going to rattle through this as quickly as I can because there's a lot in this piece here, Susan. So, I mean, the first thing I would say is start early. Fundraising probably takes a lot longer than you think it's going to take you. I would say that it takes on average probably from you having that first conversation with a potential investor to money being in your bank account in the company is probably 6 to 9 months, but it can be longer. So start way before you think you need to. There's a lot that you can do to get ready, and in terms of finding potential investors and having early conversations with them, you should certainly do that. The main activity, like everything in life, is networking. I mean, that's where it starts, networking and having those early conversations to start making the connections. Don't forget that investing is a team sport. And so it's quite, that's why the networking is even more important, because the people that you speak to may not invest, but they may tell their friends. And the other side of that is that if you find an investor, they may also bring some of their friends in with them. So introductions matter, and the networking part of it is really, really key. The second thing would be to do your homework, decide whether or not you're looking for angel finance or you're going to go a bit bigger and look for a VC, because the approaches that you would make would be very different. So go online as well, look at plenty of pictures, learn about all that jargon to do with investing. You know, it's a really important part of it. If you're not an accountant, you might want to go and learn about balance sheets and cap tables, and learn why they matter to investors. Think about what you want. You know, do you just want money or do you want smart money? Think about a realistic valuation for your business and have that already before you go out there chatting to people. Don't forget about the angel networks that exist in Ireland. You know, HBAN's a great example of people that are already there and ready to invest. Start working on your pitch deck and your plan early, because it will go through a lot of iterations. And I suppose the last thing I'd say on that point is make sure that you've accessed all the free money that you can get your hands on to before you start giving away your equity. Don't forget the EU EIC Accelerator, €2.5 million grant. That is a significant amount of money to get your business off to a great start, and it is a grant. And the third thing that I would suggest is that make sure that you raise enough. The process itself is extremely time consuming. It's very distracting for your business as usual. at the Awaken Hub event last month, Gillian Doyle from Cerebrian in Donegal talked about her fundraising process. And Gillian says that when she's fundraising, she devotes 3 days of her working week to chatting to investors and nothing else. So it takes a lot of time, and you know, for you to be in a situation where you've just closed a round and you have to start immediately again, try and avoid that if you can. And the last thing I'd say, watch out for the tire kickers. There are a lot of people that will, particularly in the angel investment community, that will have coffee after coffee after coffee with you. And going back to your marriage suggestion there, Susan, you know, there will come a day when you actually need to pop the question to them and find out if they do want to invest in you, or they're just going to carry on having coffees with you forever and a day.
That's a huge amount of advice there, Mary, and there's comments coming at me from every direction. So please do keep them coming at me anyway. So Alton actually puts this point to you, and I think it's worthwhile exploring, and that is adjourning is the 5th one, I believe, in the 5th stage. So the partnership might have a defined existence period too. What's your experience of winding down a partnership? Or, I mean, obviously you mentioned about selling your business, but it can all be very exciting to start, but how do you wind it down and amicably?
Well, I have a very short story about this. The tax accountant that we did when I sold my half of the business was a very elderly, very wise gentleman, and he'd been a tax advisor for a long time. And he said that in the 30 years that he'd been doing this sort of work, ours was the first amicable unraveling of a company that he'd ever done. So that kind of does tell you everything that you need to know. You know, it's tricky. It's tricky finding somebody, and it's tricky parting company too. So don't ever do any of these things lightly.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I would also add, well, I suppose I'm going to add a comment, and you can comment in the comment, is that I often find in a business partner relationship, you can focus on what would happen if this goes, you know, if the business doesn't go well. But I think an equally valid conversation is what happens if this goes very well. Because if two people are coming at a situation from their own businesses or their own stuff going on in their own lives, and then this could take up more than they had initially bargained for, things might need to change a little bit as well. Aoife says, great tips, thanks Mary. And Neha puts up a question here on the Q&A panel to say, can Mary help with lead generation ways in early startups? So I think, and I know I'm interpreting this, but in terms of lead generation, I mean, I know that you are absolutely the queen of networking, and that works really well in a business-to-business scenario. But would you have any, you know, a couple of seconds of an answer on lead generation at an early stage?
I think there's a lot on this, and it's very much dependent on the sort of business. I mean, most B2B businesses that people are starting, you will already have identified those first few customers, and the first few customers, whatever they cost you, you should spend it, because you need to have them. B2C is a completely different ballgame, and I think that we'll be covering some of that later today with the influencers and whatever, won't we? Mm-hmm. Also, if anyone's put any questions in the chat, as soon as I get finished on this part of the call, Susan, I will go in and answer them.
Well, actually, now that you're on that, Assumpta has put in a question, and actually Assumpta is one of the people who's going to be pitching later on. Assumpta says, how important is the wording on the contract when the partnership is formed? This may help keep everything amicable when things arise.
For a co-founder? Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything written down at all.
Really?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, I did now in my case. That's interesting. Okay, that's great. And Mary,
you could have as you bring on investment, there'll be a shareholders agreement.
Yeah.
But if there are only two of you, and it's a 50-50 split, then there isn't really a lot to write down. I think, you know, just the last point on that whole thing about co-founders, I think if the wheels are going to come off, they'll come off pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the first time that you're under a bit of pressure, that's when the cracks will show.
And again, the pressure can come if you're overly busy. The pressure doesn't necessarily just come if things go wrong, and that's
the pressure will be when you're overly busy. That's the worst.
Yeah. And it's good, and it's funny because it's in a good problem, but it can be a problem. So yeah. So absolutely, please do send in. So Mary is a panelist, so she'll be able to see your questions. Please do send them in. And just one more thing, Mary, I've one more minute to ask you. Like, what pitfalls do you see happening over and over again when it comes to pitching for finance?
Again, there's a lot on this, Susan, so I'm I'm going to rattle through at pace here. So the first one is sometimes when people get to me, they've already given away too much equity too early and to the wrong people. So be careful about that, because it can either put investors off altogether, or it will cause you a lot of embarrassment when you have to perhaps go back to a relative and say to them, my new investors don't want you on my cap table, so I need to have my shares back from you, and you need to, you know, give them some money or whatever for that. So just beware when you start in a business of like not bringing too many of your members of your own family and everything in, because it can cause you problems further down the line. The second point that I have on this is that finding investors is just the first part, really. Then you move into what's called due diligence, when they check that everything that you've said about your business is actually true. And I think a pitfall is when founders are going for investment the first time, they maybe don't have all that information ready for due diligence. So it's that stuff that Assumpta was just referring to there. It's your contracts with your customers, it's your share register, it's your minutes of your board meetings, it's your business plan in great detail, in separate chapters, each of them with marketing, finance, or whatever, all split out, so that when your investors start asking you for different things, you've got it all ready and you can send it out quickly to them. And your forecasts done, your financial forecast done and in detail, and you being ready to answer questions in detail about the assumptions that lie underneath those forecasts, and being able to do that confidently with investors. And the third one, and this is a bit more sort of esoteric and hand-waving, but the change that comes about when you bring investment into your business. So you go from it being something that is very much yours and informal, and it's up to you how you do things, to moving to a stage where it isn't really your business anymore. Somebody else maybe owns a great big chunk of it. You might still be the figurehead, but you have somebody that you're accountable to, or people that you are accountable to. And it changes things. It changes the way that things are. And like, don't forget that those investors can potentially also remove you as the chief exec, even if you're the founder, so that you are no longer involved in your own business, and you may still have shares and you may still make plenty of money from it. And so I suppose the point that I would leave you on with there is it sort of links back to your reasons at the start for starting your business. You know, what is it that you are looking for? Why are you going down the investment route? Is it to build something bigger and sell it and to make lots of money? Or are you starting a business because it's something that you're really interested in and you want to do it forever? So those are my tips. Thank you.
Mary, they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And Dara says, great advice, Mary, class. So there is lots. Now, I have just posted up your Twitter handle there on the chat if people want to reach out to you. Now, I'm deciding whether I should actually post this or not, is anyone who wants to reach out to Mary, okay, I'm telling you from chats we've had over the years, do not send her a blank invite. She can't stand them. So if you are going to reach out to her, make sure that you mention why. And I've just put that piece of advice up there now. Mary, thanks so much. You're going to come back to us, of course. You're going to be with us for the morning, but you're going to come back to us during the pitches. So we're going to hear more from you then. And in the meantime, please do reach out to her. She's super full of advice. And thanks so much indeed, Mary, for joining us so far today.
Thanks, everybody.
Now, Lorraine is up next. So, Lorraine Heskin, the woman behind the Gourmet Food Parlour. Now, because I am extremely dedicated to this job, I took it upon myself last Saturday to go out to one of the Gourmet Food Parlour's restaurants for brunch. Now, it was solely because I really felt it was a requirement to do this to make sure I could really interview Lorraine properly. And I have to say, Lorraine, a truly delightful experience. I went out to Dunleary. Great food. I actually met my brother, who's he's an engineer. Told him you did the interior design yourself, and I asked him for his comments. Double thumbs up, Lorraine. So maybe could you tell us, in your story of Gourmet Food Parlour, what motivated you to set up your own business?
Thanks very much, Susan, and good morning, everybody. It's such a pleasure for me to be here this morning. I'm so delighted to be asked, and Maria, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And Susan, thanks for all your hard work, and it's been a pleasure working with you so far on this wonderful occasion. So my name is Lorraine Heskin. I am the founder and CEO of a business called Gourmet Food Parlour, specifically located in Dublin, but I'm very proud to have a restaurant in Salthill in Galway, which I'm just out the road from, originally from a little village called Barna, if anyone knows it. So that was definitely one of my proudest moments, opening a restaurant in Galway 2 years ago. I think what inspired me to open my business was very much, I suppose, reliant on a stint that I spent in America. After I graduated from my postgrad in business in University of Limerick, I went to work for IBM, and then following that, I kind of had the itchy feet, and I decided to take my travels to New York in America, 2001. And I was very lucky to have a fantastic experience in my early 20s. I was very much loved my work, loved my career, and I was very career focused. So I got to work for some fantastic companies. I primarily started as working in a food business, so an Irish and English import food business in New York, which was absolutely brilliant. So we were representing Irish brands in America, and then selling them to the retailers, the brokers, and the warehouses. So that was a brilliant experience for me, and I worked my way up to sales manager there. And then I became a consultant for specialty food, still working on the Irish and English food brands, but working with domestic brands as well. And part of that job was traveling all throughout the States and entertaining clients and visiting lots of beautiful restaurants, which I was very lucky to be able to do. And I always loved the experience of going into a restaurant and having an atmosphere and a beautiful welcome, and how are you, and how's your day, and this is our specials today, and nice wines. And the combination of it all together was something that always intrigued me inside. And at weekends I used to walk into Manhattan, and I'd check out the suburbs, and I'd look at restaurants and delis and places like that. So when I moved back from New York, I went to work for Jacob's Biscuits, which was a brilliant time for me. But throughout that time, I suppose what it kind of felt was I had this itch, and anyone who wants to set up their own business, I think it's all individual. You kind of have this feeling inside, you're thinking, I love my job and I love what I'm doing, but I'm just not quite there yet. I'm not quite content with what I'm doing. And I always kind of knew that if I didn't do it then, I'd never do it. So I suppose I started the whole concept of maybe opening a deli and a cafe and something small, starting small. And I thought, what would the brand entail? Because the brand is always so important to me. So when I always look at Gourmet Food Parlour, I think I want customers to know, okay, well, yeah, I've heard of them, or that's a fabulous brand, or they have a beautiful restaurant and I love what they do, or the atmosphere is great, that there's the positivity resonating from it. So I started working on the brand concept straight away. And this was 2006, when, if everybody remembers 2006, it was back in the real striving Celtic Tiger times, as they call them. And every landlord in Dublin practically said no. Like every time I tried to get a premises, it was like, no. But I found one fabulous landlord who gave me a chance. His name was Bob Reid. And I said this to you before, Susan, I'll never forget him ever as long as I live. And he gave me a chance. And that's how Gourmet Food Parlour started.
Yeah, it often comes down to, you know, to that one person that can often open a door and or just as Mary has mentioned here, like, you know, leap and Annette will form. Well, I have to say you have some serious fans here, because Jackie says, I had a great experience in the Galway Gourmet Food Company recently. Then Sandra said, what an addition to Salthill Lorraine's restaurant is. Aisling said, the joy of finding Tato in New York City after 5 months.
Yeah, so, I hear that. Yeah, I hear you.
And you know, and it's interesting. It's interesting, all right, just how you say everything that you said about the positivity, the great atmosphere, the food, particularly the way the window looks out onto the water there in Dún Laoghaire. And by the way, I'm going to make it my personal mission to get around to them all 6 of them. So one of the things though that you mentioned there, like at the start of your story, is taking that risk for the first one. But of course you are now in Santry and Malahide and Skerries, you know, in Salthill and so on. Just interestingly, Lorraine, as my brother and I walked out of the restaurant, a car or a van passed us which said Gourmet Food Parlour Catering as well. So I really saw the full experience. So how do you manage risk? How do you manage risk when it comes to taking the next step? towards whether it's a new restaurant, whether it's a new part of the business, whether it is a new part of the country? How do you manage that, or what do you think through when it comes to taking risk that way?
And that's such a brilliant question, and I'll probably answer from how I used to manage it back in 2006 when I decided, I opened the first cafe, and I realized, I always say this, that there was a demand for the brand, because when you open your business first, you know, you're nervous and you're apprehensive about what's the future going to hold, and are people actually going to believe? I mean, I believe in it so much. Are people actually going to believe in it as much as I do? And I think that's probably the biggest thing when you start your business. And I remember in 2006, the day we opened, it was 1 p.m. on the 28th of July 2006, and I'll never forget as long as I live. And I was as nervous as the day was long, but we were so busy, I probably didn't even have time to be nervous, but a queue was outside the door because we had started a small element of marketing. And again, that brand concept, I'm always talking about how important your brand is to your business. And there was a queue out the door, and I'll never forget as long as I live, there was people who believed in it. And then you get that adrenaline buzz, and then you start your business and you focus on it. Within 6 months to a year, I kind of realized that that I was going to open more. I wanted to. I had the energy. I still have the energy for it 14 years later, but I knew that there was going to be more. So what I used to do then, very, very simply, was, because it's a restaurant business, we're in the food game, I used to look at potential premises, or I'd research all around, and I would literally sit in a car, and then I would look at the pedestrians on the street, the buses, how many buses are coming by, and then I would check the corporate. So for me, I've established and grown my business by hashtag what I call not being on the high street. So I have not taken huge rents in city centre towns or cities. I have developed the brand to be able to, I suppose, entice people to come out of their way to visit Gourmet Food Parlour, because that's, if you look at every single restaurant, we're not on the main street anywhere. Yeah, we've grown to 6. Well, we've had 7 restaurants. I've just recently closed down 1, and we have a catering and event business as well. So assessing risk is it's such a broad question, or such a broad answer as well, Susan. But I mean, I have to look at everything. You have to look at the area. What are the potential income? What's the corporate income? Because you can't just rely on residential when you're opening a restaurant or in the food business. You need both to be able to survive, because the days that are quieter, you can focus on maybe corporate business to be able to come in for lunchtime. So you have to focus on all of that. And then also you have to look at the unit as well. What investment is needed? What's the landlord like? What are the deals? What's the terms on the lease? You know, how much money is going to be required to fit it out to standard. So there's all of those elements that need to be assessed. And at the end of the day, the biggest risk, there's always a risk in doing everything in business, and even changing things within your business is a risk. But you have to believe in it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in what you're doing. And Mary alluded to this as well. Running your own business, whether you have business partners or not, it is it can be very, very lonely space. And, you know, surrounding yourself with good people is such a pivotal part of it as well. And it helps you sometimes when you can bounce your thoughts and your ideas off other people, and particularly people outside your business. So networking is key, and having people that you trust close by you. Assessing the risk that you think you're going to take. You know, you take what they say on board, and you think, okay, I'm going to take that on board. I'm going to think about that for a couple of days, and you let it sink in. Sometimes what they say, you mightn't take it on board, but other times you might say, you know what, they're right. And it's listening, it's getting that sound advice. So it's all of those parameters kind of combined together. And then just that belief in yourself, and you have to take a chance sometimes, you know.
Well, you know, I'm intrigued actually by what you're saying about being a lonely space, because I just posted your Instagram up there on the chat. I've discovered it pretty well myself over the last while. And like Brian Reynolds here, for example, he said, entrepreneurship is a team sport. There's no room for the Lone Ranger. Lorraine Bowen says, I was a big GFP fan years before I met Lorraine. Her authentic, enormously generous support of female entrepreneurship drives me back to the brand whenever I can. And that's I'm sorry, there's like,
thanks, Lorraine.
I can keep going here. The ambition is just wonderful to see. I can only imagine how exhausting this can be, but your energy, Lorraine, is to be admired. Love the enthusiasm. Assessing risk is so important. Now, what I find intriguing about your Instagram is I know more about your mother and your father, your kids, and I also, and they look very well that night. You brought them to the awards and all the rest of it. But you know what particularly strikes me though is the day you posted you had 100 jobs, and then there was the cupcakes. Like, I literally know it all, Lorraine. I'm really truly. You should also check that out on Instagram. But the thing is, you like, we'll say multiple areas. A restaurant with one, I suppose, an idea of one brand. So how do you build a culture across different venues, but in one company? Like, because that is something that anybody who's involved in scale, or particularly multiple venues, will know. Culture has to be right. And how have you done that?
So culture for me is just vitally important, and I suppose what I did, Susan, a few years ago is when we started with one cafe, and then I decided to kind of grow the business. You know, pre-COVID we had close to 300 employees, and COVID is a separate conversation because it's been very, very difficult, but we've been able to transition through, which I'm very, very grateful for. But the culture in the business, it you know, the responsibility lands on me. I'm the top tier, and it comes from me down. So if I feel that someone has left the business or something negative has happened, I take that very, very seriously. And what I did a few years ago was I worked with a business consultant to help me to step outside the business and to look from outside within to see, okay, how can I set up the business so I can absorb growth, but I can also maintain what I want to be a happy culture. And we all know some of us have good days, some of us have bad days. If you're in a busy environment, things are going to be challenging. But I always say it's how we deal with it as a team. We're all there to support each other, and there are always solutions. I always say there's 3 solutions to everything. So let's talk out the 3 and let's pick the one that we want to go forward with. But at the time, I developed and devised a structure within.
Oh, Lorraine, I think we might just have, I think she's possibly just dropped off there. What I'm just going to do at this stage is just point out that, as Sumta has also said, it's so important to be open to advice, but also being able to filter. Lorraine, I think we can hear you.
Do you know what's after happening now is that they're telling me that Zoom has undetected my camera for some reason.
Okay, well, let me see now what we can do about.
Anyway, you're probably better off not looking at me. I'm probably better off just talking anyway.
Far from it now, all right. Okay, I'm not sure how we can handle that one right now, Lorraine. What I can do is what I might do is that I might just pop across to Niamh, and then we'll bring it back in for the Q&A.
Do you know what I can do? Sorry, Susan, I can link in here on my phone. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you twice. 1 second. Okay, now. Okay,
well, let me see.
what I'm going to do is...
It just says that that the host has disabled the camera. That might help.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, now, so if you just switch on your camera there. Now we're right. Perfect.
Sorry about that. So yeah, so look, I mean, I devised, I suppose, what I call is like a structure within the business. So what's really important to me is that everybody works within their own departments. So within the business, we would have a marketing and communications department with a graphic designer. We would have a business development and catering section. We have an operations team that run the core operations of the day-to-day business. So they would be in charge of all the head chefs, all the managers, all the way down to kitchen porters, waiters and waitresses on the floor. Everybody is involved in that. Then we have a full finance team. So it allows me to manage all the different departments and all the different areas, and then it allows me to, I suppose, communicate and keep in touch. And most specifically, we have a HR department. And last year we invested in the most amazing online system called Flow. It's a Scottish training system, and it allows us then to encourage every single staff member to become educated and to continue training and to develop their training. And then for staff who are starting to work with Gourmet Food Parlour, they must carry out different modules before they start. So it's developing all of that culture together. I mean, I pride myself on knowing everybody and going around and having a positive environment. Positivity comes from the managers, so we stay in touch with them, and that will divide down to their teams as well. So it's very, very important, and it is difficult as you get bigger. There's no doubt about it. But I think you need to adapt. I think you need to change your business at all times and be open to change, to know how important it is to continue to keep that culture moving forward. And it's not always going to be successful, because we all know there are going to be challenges. But I think I always learn more from making mistakes or from getting feedback from somebody who's upset for some reason. Then I know where the problems are, and then I feel good about it, because then I can do something about it. So it's very important to me that I continue to change and continue to keep growing in that essence.
Well, I'm just going to read out a range of things that have come into me here. So Francis, love this, Lorraine, happy culture, look from the outside within. Then also, Jackie said, staff joy was the most striking and notable part of my visit to the Gourmet Food Parlour recently in Galway. Great food too, of course, but I was particularly struck by the staff vibe. Then also, some said it's so important to be open to advice, but also being able to filter. Lorraine is so inspiring. Petra says, I'm a hospitality professional. I'm in awe of Lorraine and her business culture. Septa said, Lorraine is a fabulous ambassador for the wonderful culture she's harnessed in GFP. It's so important. That's with 2 O's. And GFP is oozing with it. Lizzie said, exuberant passion from Lorraine. How important is passion in building your business?
Oh, that's a brilliant question, because I tell you, it's so important. And I feel honestly so blessed that 14 years later, I still am as passionate and absolutely in love with the business as I was 14 years ago. And like running any business, having your own business is very, very tough. And it is the good days that keep you going, because there are bad days and we all have to be realistic about that. But I think it's so important, because I think people will get that from you. When you have that love and that passion and you can feel it from somebody, I just think there's nothing better than feeling that. And I think that actually inspires other people around you as well. And I think positivity, like even today, hearing everybody talk this morning and throughout the day, we're going to leave today going, I just feel amazing. And I'm so glad that I was exposed to this person or that person, or I got energy, or I got inspiration about maybe making changes in my own business. So I think that passion is really, really important.
Well, Lorraine, thank you so much indeed for joining us. So we've lots more questions that I'd love to ask you, but we're going to bring you back in again before the break. Thanks so much indeed. It's huge. You've really great factor, as I say. Lorraine is also a panelist, so if you have any questions. One last thing, Maureen says, recruitment and retention in action. As a hospitality recruiter, it's refreshing to hear how an employer is caring for her employees. So lots of fans, and you definitely got one of me anyway, for sure. Thanks so much indeed, Lorraine, and for persevering as well. You're a problem solver. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to bring in Niamh McKenna. So Niamh McKenna comes from Spotlight. That's because I've turned on your Spotlight. You come from ChangeX. Now, actually, Niamh and I have a mutual friend who introduced me to the whole concept of ChangeX. It's a fantastic platform that really enables people to be to create their own social entrepreneurial or social enterprise tech capabilities and activities. And even if it's nothing to do with enterprise, if it's simply wanting to be the change that you want to see around the world. So Niamh, first of all, you're very welcome. Again, would you like to introduce ChangeX and a little bit to us, and then we'll ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Susan. So my name is Niamh McKenna. I'm from Donegal, but went to college in Galway, so definitely have the strong connections to the West. I'm in Dublin today. But yeah, so we started ChangeX about 6 years ago now almost, which is kind of crazy. But the problem that we set out to solve was that within the kind of social innovation or nonprofit sector, ideas that work often struggled to scale, so that you had this kind of reinvention of the wheel. So as people tried to address social problems, people didn't know that there was a solution that already worked in maybe another country or another region of a country. And at the same time, you had people in local communities looking for ways to improve things or get involved or solve a problem. So we wanted to bring those two things together. And how we did that was tried to build a technology platform where you had proven solutions on one side and people looking for ways to help or solve a problem on the other side. So we've been through lots and lots of iterations of that, and it has evolved in kind of many different ways, but that's still the core of it. So it's all about scaling ideas that work. So some of the ideas that people will be familiar with here are things like Grow It Yourself, which is an Irish organization which brings people together to grow their own food. Another one is Repair Cafe, an idea that originates in the Netherlands and brings people together to fix things rather than throw them away. And yeah, so that's a little bit about ChangeX.
Well, what intrigues me about ChangeX, Niamh, is the fact that in contrast to specifically Lorraine's business and even in Mary's initiatives, is you're enabling people to be stakeholders in something that they're not employees. So you still have to motivate and influence and, incentivize and so on like that. And as just as you mentioned, where the barriers to scale are the very things that you want to remove. So how do you build a team? How do you build an ethos where you can't, like Lorraine can do, say, walk the floor? How do you do that? How have you built that over the past 6 years?
Yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting question because so Change X is, I suppose, there's kind of many different elements to it. So obviously there's the core team, and then there's our kind of team of teams, as we call it, which are our board, our advisors, and then we partner with a lot of other nonprofit organizations. So the likes of GIY have been, a very close partner of ours since we started. We get the opportunity to work with many great social entrepreneurs from all over the world. So that's kind of another team. And then, like you said, we're kind of trying to empower and enable people in local communities to take these ideas and get them started and support them through that process through an online platform. And so initially we did that in a very kind of a manual way. Like we actually kind of piloted Change X in a community in the Burren with a great social entrepreneur down there, Brendan Dunford. So we spent the first few months like going down to the Burren, meeting with local community leaders. We printed out guides for how to start ideas. Like it was so manual. And it was kind of through building that local team down there and really learning what was valuable, what was completely not valuable at all, that we then went on to kind of build the technology platform and really just start scaling some of these ideas. And, I think we're still in that kind of scaling journey. Like we've cracked elements of it. But that building out that team of teams has really been so critical. And I think a few people mentioned, the importance of commitment, of passion, of resilience, particularly within our core team. That has been so critical over the last few years that, so we are a nonprofit. So I think our mission and kind of what we want to achieve is probably the thing that attracts people to our team. And, some of our kind of early philanthropic investors have been there the whole way through and kind of supported us through this process as we tried to become a more sustainable nonprofit organization with a revenue model that could sustain us to really get to the kind of global scale that we want. So I think, yeah, there's kind of many teams involved. So it's kind of a complex web of teams.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of people today. As I say, we've well over 100 people today on the call throughout. And I certainly know in my own case anyway, Niamh, that there's times when you hit ceilings and you want to get to the next level. But if you continue to do the things you've always done, you will get the things that you've always got. So just like you said, the whole idea of Change X is ideas that work can be hard to scale. So if you were to identify some of the key ideas that enable things to scale, or the barriers that if you remove them, that then can move forward, like starting off that day in the Burren and printing flyers and so on like that, and understanding what's valuable and what's not valuable. But how do you get to multiply that by 10 or 100, which of course Change X is all about?
Yeah, so there was a few kind of critical points for us, I think. And just looking back on the last few years, I think one of them was that initially I think, to be honest, we were guilty of kind of trying to scale a bit too early. We hadn't really reached product market fit, or we didn't have that kind of sustainable business model that was going to allow us to scale. So although we were growing, we weren't doing it in a sustainable way. So our kind of key metric at the time was active starters. So an active starter is someone who's taken one of the ideas from Change X and successfully got it started in their local community. So we could see that was growing, but we weren't becoming any more sustainable as an organization. So we had to switch our key metric to like kind of sustainable active starters, or where we were also growing as an organization for each time we had an active team get one of these ideas up and running. And that was a really hard transition to make, and we had to be kind of very honest with ourselves that, we could like kid ourselves that we were growing, but really it was only going to bring us so far. And that was really us kind of getting to that product market fit so that we had paying customers. So we partner with corporates or foundations who actually fund both us and that local team in a local community who's starting one of these ideas. So it wasn't really until we made that transition that we were even ready to really talk about scaling. So I think that was a kind of a big key transition for us. And then I think, yeah, when you said you kind of get to a point, you're like, oh, how are we going to get to the next level? For me, that was very much happened last year when we closed a partnership with Microsoft, which was, so what Microsoft were struggling with was, so they do an awful lot of work, as many people will know, in environmental sustainability, but they were struggling to really kind of engage at the grassroots or local community level on their environmental sustainability projects. So we got introduced to them through a mutual connection, and we were going to do a pilot with them in 2 regions of the US, so Arizona and Chicago. So we decided as the team and the board that we were going to kind of try and do this totally remotely, but if needed, we'd just go over there and like get someone on the ground, similar to how we started out in the Burren, or how we had done some of our work here in Ireland. So that was definitely pretty daunting, and we went through kind of a whole, as a team, we looked at, actually one of the things we looked at, and someone already mentioned this story of Airbnb, but we really looked at the Airbnb story in a lot of detail, and there's some great resources out there on how they scaled their kind of magical experience. So, you know, doing things that don't scale initially, trying to build out a 7-star user experience. So we kind of went through that whole process in order to figure out how we were going to do this in the US, how we were going to activate 50 teams around environmental ideas without actually being there, and really kind of leaning on our technology product and really scaling the things that we knew would work and had worked there. So I think that was also another big, so really kind of focusing on the user and really understanding like the value that you're bringing and kind of how you can begin to bring that to scale. So that was another point of big learning for us over the last few years.
And could I ask you, in that case, you've partly answered it when I say what you need to stop doing, by you need to stop focusing on certain metrics or KPIs or indicators and move to others. Are there any behaviors that you need to change? Is there maybe it's a mindset behavior, maybe it's a way in which you talk to each other, maybe it's a, you know, certain language?
Yeah.
What do you need to stop doing to scale?
Yeah, there's definitely a few. Like I suppose, because we had, you know, there was definitely things that we had done in a very kind of manual way, and processes that we had designed, and you know, you really need to kind of let go of some of that stuff that's not going to serve you as you scale. And you know, we work as well with a lot of social entrepreneurs who are kind of going on this journey, like Tracy Kyo from Grow Remote, who many people might know. I've kind of worked with her over the last few years on, she was starting out like, how do we begin to scale this chapter model? So together we were like, okay, what are the really core principles of what a Grow Remote chapter is? And then how do we like let that scale in an organic way without having too much control? I remember GIY, like McKelly always tells the story of when he started GIY, he was going around to all the GIY meetings around the country for their first event. And, you know, as that scaled, he realized that he just couldn't do that anymore. And I think there's so much we can do now that we can retain those kind of that personal touch without the actually going around the country. So I think GIY did like a welcome video or things like that. So I think there's kind of letting go of things and really just focusing on what's critical to my idea, like what really makes this work, and therefore we'll get it to scale.
And I also wonder if we could really niche down this, like what's the biggest challenge that ChangeX has had so far? Has it been, you know, well, I suppose actually it goes back to the conversation we were just having there with Mary, which is, did the challenge come from almost too much success at any one stage? Did it come, where did it come from? Where has the challenge been and how to overcome it?
I think our biggest challenge, and it's an ongoing challenge, is building a sustainable revenue model. So we, you know, started out with purely philanthropic funding from mostly individual philanthropists who kind of could see the potential in applying and using a technology platform to spread social innovations, but that was only ever going to get us so far. And we experimented with different revenue models. Like we always knew we didn't want to charge the people who were starting ideas in local communities, because that wasn't what it was all about. We actually did experiment with charging the social innovators, so the kind of nonprofits that we worked with, but like they don't have much money either, so that was never going to get us very far. And we were just really bad at even trying to ask them for money because they just didn't have it. So then it wasn't until we really started to hone in on, well, what is our value proposition, particularly for corporates? Like, where are they struggling with, whether it's a CSR strategy or an environmental sustainability strategy, and what can we offer them that is unique, and therefore that we can begin to build a sustainable revenue model out of it. So that has definitely been the biggest challenge for us. And we're still, you know, our Microsoft is growing, which is great. We have some other smaller partnerships with Target in the US and Niantic, a gaming company in the US. So we're kind of like learning and kind of growing that model. But that has definitely been our biggest challenge, and now just growing that and scaling that right up is the next one.
Well, I think Niamh, you know, I think we've an awful lot to see yet from ChangeX, and I think it's going to be intriguing. And thank you so much, Niamh, for sharing your insights with us. And I now have the opportunity to bring all of our three speakers back together. So while we're doing that, what I have now done is that I'm just going to ask you to go back to the link that I mentioned from earlier. And can I now just ask you, what key takeaways did you glean from the speakers? While I'm doing that, I'm just going to ask Mary and Lorraine and Niamh just to turn on your mics and to turn on your video, please. So again, I'm just going to go back up there, and I'm going to get the link, and I'm going to make sure that everybody has access to it. So what I'm now going to ask you to do is just, if you just pop in the key insights that you have picked up from this morning. What it allows us to do is, number one, is we can share them with everybody else. Number one, we can share them with everybody else, but also I'm going to ask the speakers to actually comment. There's one anyway has come up: be confident, leap, and inevitable form. One that came from Mary and Orla this morning. So I'm just going to copy the link here again, copy that, and I'm going to paste that. So the importance of passion and determination in business. Brand is key. Nailing your product market fit. Niamh, that's yours. So I'm just going to give you a moment here. So the importance of your brand to your business, demand for your brand. Most startups pivot. Be flexible. That's one from you, Mary. That one has just appeared there again. So please do pop them in. It's always good to do this, just to hear what is it that you're picking up from everybody, but also maybe. We are aware, of course, that things can happen while things are online, and something may catch your attention for a moment. And we really do have great people here. We're going to have lots more great people after the break. So I think it's just a good idea to be able to capture the insights that people have. Emma here says resilience is key. Don't give away equity too early. Another one from you there, Mary. Always be ready to pivot. Passion is key. Always be open to advice and looking at your business from the outside. That's one from each of you. Well done to that person. So there's 25 comments in there, and please do continue to pop them in, and they're going to appear on your own screen. So just because I stopped sharing doesn't mean that it stopped there at all. But what I'm just going to do, maybe Mary, if we just go back to you, I'm just going to cancel the spotlight video, and just make sure, Mary, that you're there. Perfect. And also. Lorraine, if I could ask you to do the same, you might just turn back on your video, please.
It just says, sorry, Susan, it just says that it's locked, that the host has locked it. Can you unlock it maybe?
Oh, yep, I can indeed. I have that done there
Great.
for you now. So if you, yep,
Thank you.
Perfect indeed. Okay, so Mary, in terms of like what you're seeing on the chat, what you're hearing other people say, what's appearing up there, loads and loads of comments are continuing, 36 comments up there now on that. What do you think, Mary, is one of the key things that you feel people are taking away from you this morning?
I think that our audience today will really think about whether or not taking finance and investment is the right route for them. I've seen a few people saying that it's made them reconsider whether it's the right path, and it's something that very much even the government and all of its agencies encourage you to do. There is a policy around encouraging people to take investment into their business for whatever reason, but it's something that you should think long and hard about it.
Yeah, I see Christine here has said, I've learned from Mary that I definitely don't want investors. I started out to work for myself, and pivoting is what I'll be open to. That's coming up a lot here on my screen here to the left, which is where I have that all of your comments coming in, is that pivot, like the ability to pivot is a huge thing. That's something that's really coming up there. And Lorraine, I have to go to you on this because, of course, the world and its mother wants to know how you handled COVID. And I know COVID is, potentially sorry, not potentially, it's a current thing as opposed to how did you, but how did you have to pivot? How did you handle that? I think a lot of people would be interested in that, Lorraine.
Yeah, massively, Susan. I mean, probably from March the 12th to now, my business has completely taken a 360-degree turn. First of all, I decided it was very early to close down the whole business because I just felt that there was a sense of unrest, and people were very nervous, not just customers but staff. And I just felt at the time, because there wasn't enough knowledge about COVID, that I took the decision to close, which was a very, very, very difficult decision to make, but it was the right one all the same. So after that, it was quite scary because I didn't know, how long is this going to last for? Are we going to be 6 months, 12 months? What's the story? And I've got landlords and rents, and I've got suppliers and staff, and you have to manage everything all together. So I took a day to have a think about it, and I woke up 2 days later. Well, 2 days later, I took 2 days to think about it, and I decided to open for takeaway. So basically what we did was I went from having 7 restaurants at the time, I now have 6, and a thriving catering and event business. We specialize in sports nutrition, so we work with top athletes throughout the country, and teams, Dublin teams, Leinster Rugby, Connacht Rugby, all of those companies combined. And what I decided was to shut it all down. So we started to open very, very slowly. And it was a very much a pivot, and that's such a brilliant word because we had to completely pivot. So basically nobody could ever order any of our food online. So we decided to invest in an online platform for customers to be able to order and collect, or we would deliver. So what I did is I took my 14 vans that were in my catering business and I put them on the road delivering to houses. So I was able to keep jobs going, I was able to keep the brand alive, and I was able to keep the business going at a very much a smaller scale, but that's how we started. And the first couple of weeks were quiet. Then it started to build momentum, and customers contacted us and said, how can we get this and how can we get that? So I eventually, now this is a very, very short version of a longer story, but I eventually got all 6 outlets open, and we put a huge amount of work into retraining staff. Again, our online flow system that we invested in last year proved to be absolutely essential to us. We reduced our seating capacity in every restaurant from 30 to 40%. We bought in perspex screens. I hired a man to make the screens for me and paint them the same colour as the decor. So the decor wasn't to be hindered. But yeah, look, we just adapted, and we fought hard, and we kept everything going, And it's been a journey. It's been a huge journey. But I'm so grateful to be sitting here and to still be able to have our 6 restaurants open, and I can see the love for the business, and that makes everything so worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, you just keep, oozing that passion that everybody is describing for sure, Lorraine. And I didn't realize, of course, when I went into your restaurant, I didn't feel like it was at a different capacity. It just felt great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, which is, I know, ultimately what you'd like. Niamh, sorry, Niamh, can I bring you in here? But just before, Lorraine, so inspirational, Lorraine. The staff retraining is key, and to remove anxieties for the team and customers alike. Absolutely, Fran. Niamh, there's a question in here for you, and that is, listening to Niamh, I'm wondering how big the challenge is in terms of attracting investors when there is a social dimension to the business. Are there many impact investors in Ireland? Could you share some insights with us on that?
Yeah, so there's not really, compared to like the US or the UK. It is definitely growing, the kind of impact investment space, but it's very, very early stage. And I know someone else had mentioned the non-profit versus for-profit, and that's something that we kind of talked about a lot initially, about how we should set up. And there's kind of advantages and disadvantages to both. Like, in one way, as a non-profit, especially in the early days, it can be easier to raise philanthropic funding, because we were raising funding from investors who were just doing it as a purely philanthropic play, so there was no return needed. But then once you get to a certain point, like it's very hard to raise kind of funding beyond that, and then you can't, there's no other types of finance you can raise. So that was challenging. But we have looked at different models, like potentially looking at a hybrid model that would allow us to raise different types of finance, but still have our nonprofit kind of mission at the core. And I know Mary mentioned their impact investment in the UK, and there definitely is kind of a much more sophisticated impact investment market in the UK. But I think there's an opportunity there in Ireland, and it may be an area that hopefully we'll see growing over the next few years.
I've just posted your Facebook link there up into the chat there, Niamh, because 23,000 likes there on Facebook and constantly growing. And I just think I think a lot of people are very good in business. What I mean is good is they want to be good to the environment, they want to be good to society, they want to be good, but they don't necessarily know how to make this work or how to convey that message. And that's why I think, letting people know that your organization is there too, that can do that really, really well is very important. At this point, we're just at 11:30. I just want to let you know we've had 41 responses into what key takeaways did you glean from the speakers. I've had loads and loads and loads of comments. I hope I've tried to read out as many as I can. There's a Bob Marley fan recognizing another one in the chat here at the moment. So great to see all of that happening. We're continuing, as I say, to collect those takeaways as we go along here. But I just want to say thanks so much to each of our three speakers, to Mary, to Lorraine, and to Niamh. You've been really, really wonderful. Before we go to a break, what I'd just like to do is tell you my key takeaways from each of them. And that is that from Mary, I got find a business partner, someone that you can get on with. She said, learn how to pivot and be able to pivot quickly, understand lots of great companies did so before. She said, speed and scale are of the essence. She said, start fundraise before you think you need to. She said, and also make sure when you are raising money to raise enough. She said networking is the name of the game, and that fundraising is a team sport. She said that make sure that you're looking for a reasonable valuation. That is what's very, very important. Get whatever free money you can. Now, what she means there is in terms of grants and so on. And she particularly mentioned the accelerator, which is up to 2.5 million, which is grant. She also mentioned the person who said that when they're fundraising, that can take up to 3 days a week of their time, which is a huge commitment. And she also said to watch out for the tire kickers. Then Lorraine said positivity. She wants positivity radiating from the business. She said, are people going to believe in it as much as I do? And how do you get people to that point, both customers and staff and so on? She also mentioned hashtag not being on the high street. Now, I didn't get a chance to tell you this, Lorraine, but I actually interviewed the founder of notonthehighstreet.com, who had a very, very similar mindset to you. And it was an online portal and so on, but I can see a lot of similarities there. She spoke about she spoke about a range of risks, but she said you need to believe in yourself. You need to surround yourself with great people. A lot of people picked up on this and resonated on the screen, on the area where we're capturing what people took away is look from the outside within. And you reiterated that by taking the 2 days to really think about how you could react to COVID. She said there's 3 solutions to every problem. And you know what's bizarre, ladies and gentlemen, is as she said it, her video went out. And do you think that video went down for 40 seconds before she was back up again? She says there's 3 solutions to every problem, and she picks the one and is going to go for it. She mentioned a Scottish system called Flow. She got people back up and running. She said she prides herself in knowing everybody and having a positive environment. She said passion is so important, and she's as passionate now as she was 14 years ago when she started. Then Niamh spoke about ideas that can work and be hard to scale. She said start off in a manual way. So she mentioned, for example, how they did so in the Burren with flyers, but learn what's valuable and what's not valuable and decide from there. She said commitment, passion and resilience are so important when you have teams or when you have teams of teams. Key thing she said that she learned is that you need to reach product market fit in order to scale. She said growth doesn't necessarily mean scale. She told us a great story about that. She said growth doesn't necessarily mean scale, but she says make sure that your KPIs allow that sustainability of scale. She said sometimes when you're scaling, you need to rethink a personal touch from maybe being there in person to a welcome video. letting go of what doesn't serve you is really what's important. And what they're continuously working on is finding a sustainable revenue model. So on that note, a huge thanks to each of our 3 speakers. Please come back to us in 6 minutes time. We're going to get back on. We've got 3 fantastic influencers who are going to talk about that. We've got some pictures. We've got lots more going on. Last thing I want to say is the reason we didn't have breakout rooms is because the numbers went over the capability of where we could. And that's why we wanted to have this other method. So it's because there's so many of you here that we couldn't break you all out and bring you back in together. So that's why. So I'll see everybody in 6 minutes. Get a coffee, pop to the bathroom, tweet, hashtag EmpowerConf, etc. And we'll see you all at 11:40. Thank you. Just while we're on a break there, Aoife, Sinead and Charlene, can I ask you all to turn on your videos, please? And thank you. Hi, Sinead.
Hi, going great so far.
Thank you.
Very good. I'm trying to get the Instagram messages out. I'm not on Twitter so much these days.
Good woman yourself.
Hey.
Hi, Aoife. Thank you very much.
How are you?
Perfect.
Hi, Aoife.
Hi, Sinead, how are you?
Great. How are you keeping?
Good.
Good.
Now we are just going to give everyone a couple of moments there to come back, and we're going to go again in three minutes time.
Perfect.
Hello.
Okay. Charlene, can you hear us? I should be there in a second.
How's it going so far? Susan, good?
Is that Charlene?
Aoife.
Oh, Aoife, sorry. Yes, all is going very well. Sorry, I was you're all videos up there over my screen at the moment, so I'm making sure I'm getting right there with everybody. Now I'm going to.
Yeah, it's really good, Aoife. I've been on it all morning. It's really good.
Amazing. I was dead. I wanted to be on it. I had meetings this morning.
Yeah, I blocked off my calendar for this morning because there's a good few speakers I wanted to hear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Perfect, Charlene. We have you there now. Great stuff indeed. Well, we have just 30 seconds to go. So what I'm just going to do is just remind everyone there who is on with us. I'm just going to check my chat. Right, so I'm just going to read out a couple of comments that have been coming in. So Diane says, going amazing. Well done, ladies. Finola' spirit of entrepreneurship is an inspiration every year, and this year is no exception. Fabulous energy. Thanks, Susan. Well, Finola, you're most welcome. But my energy is easy to be high when I'm surrounded by all these fantastic people. Mary says, Mary McKenna, going really well, everyone. Had some great feedback from delegates, and you deserve it, Mary. Aoife says, excellent morning. Thank you, Mary, Lorraine, and Niamh, and of course, Susan and Maria. Niamh says, great to hear your stories too, Mary. Fab morning so far, and thanks so much, Susan. Well, you're all very kind to me, but as I say, it's the women who are here are making all of the difference. Okay, so now that everybody's back, hope that you all got a coffee and have settled right in. So what I'm going to do first of all is that I'm going to ask you this time. I'm going to ask you a different question. I'm just going to pull this up here on my screen. And okay, very good. Now, the question, as we're going to move into the next phase of this event, we're going to start talking about digital marketing and specifically through influencing. However, what I think is really important, and I'm looking here on the other side of my screen to make sure that I get it for you, is that what is really important to do is it's important that we know the type of support that you particularly need and would benefit from. So what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to ask you a separate question on that tool. I'm going to share my screen with you again. And as we start, I would just like to know, when it comes to your Leo particularly, because I'm going to ask the support that our influencers got over time. When it comes to the Leo, what particularly is it that you're looking for? And we have to give great credit today to both of the Leos that are supporting us. But before I talk about them, just want to make sure that everybody who comes back can get on that link. And there we go. Okay, so I want to give credit today for sure to Roscommon and to Mayo Leo. They have been really helpful for a start in helping us with the event. They are sponsoring the prize for the picture who is going to win later on today. But of course, they are hugely impactful in our local environments. Personally, I am a client of the Dublin City Leo, and that's where our business is based. They have been very helpful to us both in their own right. We recently got the Trading Online voucher, we got the Business Continuity voucher recently. But the key thing that I wanted to ask when it comes to the existing financial supports is there's a lot of supports out there that have absolutely nothing got to do with COVID or with Brexit or anything. They're simply broadly there. The thing is though, is that are they sufficient? Are they what you need? And of course, the other thing is the Leo can be hugely helpful when it comes to signposting. And I'm going to tell you a brief story about one of my experiences about this. But just before I do, I'm also going to mention, so mentoring, of course, is a huge thing that they do. Access to the community is giving you access to other entrepreneurs, creating events, or simply creating a link into the community, whether it is telling about what funding opportunities are coming up or what events are taking place, just giving you access, that touch point in. So at the moment, based on what I'm seeing, 29 of you have voted. As I said, there's well over 100 people on today. So I'm going to leave that open there. What help do you want from your Leo, whether it comes to signposting, existing financial supports, mentoring, training and events, access to community? So what do you need? If you go right over to the right is what you really need, and right over to the left is what you don't really need all that much of. Okay, my brief story. My brief story is that 4 years ago, I came up with an idea. And what I did was I came up with the idea for how we might put this idea into practice in the business, but I didn't have a way of necessarily funding it, and it was all wound up in innovation. So this is going to be a high risk scenario. There's no way anybody was going to fund this from an equity point of view. So therefore, I had to look at other ways in which to fund this. So I came across the Innovation Partnership. Now, the Innovation Partnership is a way that you can get an idea funded by bringing money into not into your business, but into university, that ultimately will do the work for you. So we applied for funding at feasibility first, which was a €9,000 grant. And we got somebody to look into the innovation of the idea. And then we went for the much bigger one. It's up to a maximum of 200,000. And that money goes into university. The university builds out your innovation. Then it's up to you to commercialize it. And that was signposted from the DO, but it was also an existing financial support that very few people actually knew about. And that's something that Orla would have worked an awful lot on in her previous job in CIT in terms of research and innovation. So that's what I mean by the existing financial supports. There's lots and lots available there. So we've had 38 responses. Again, I'm going to leave that up there on the link. I'm going to stop sharing there now. And I want to go back, I want to introduce you now to 3 truly amazing women. Really are, I have to say. These wait until you hear all of what these are up to. So I want to start off today by telling you a little bit about Sinead, right? So what I have to say that I really admire about Sinead is that she saw what was coming long before many others did. So in the case of Sinead, what she did was that she saw that back then in the day, she saw that blogging was becoming a bigger and bigger area, and where there was lots of people interacting with blogging, but were they necessarily communicating with the brands that were out there, and were, on the other hand, were brands connecting in with bloggers? And of course, bloggers then became bloggers, and bloggers have now become influencers. And so throughout all of that, Sinead created the Irish Blogger Agency and her other company called Mini Media. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about the environment that influencers operate in. Aoife is a truly, I have to say, another woman that I have since started following on Instagram, an absolute fashionista of the highest degree. Really takes care of her followers, and like when you talk about Niamh and you talk about sustainability, you talk about Mary, and talk about something that really works and resonates and speed and pivoting. Aoife, and the way in which she brings her passion into all of what her brand represents, and the way in which she's interacted with her followers over the years, and also found out in many times worked through the hard yards in order to understand true experience and making what matters. And then we have Charlene. So Charlene is in Enniscrone in Sligo, and one of the most important things that you can do in business is understand your USP, your unique selling point. And what I love about what Charlene has done is she really speaks to that woman in rural Ireland, the woman that I grew up as, who can't always pop into Brown Thomas and pick up your MAC makeup or a variety of other things, needed to go to the local pharmacy in order to get your makeup, which is where mine comes from, by the way. And then from then built her business on showcasing the various different products that are there. And she really, again, if you follow her on Instagram, she tells the real tale. She shows how much she looks into these products and so on like that. She's also hugely popular as a bridal makeup artist. Anybody that emails her, you will know. Number 1, she is booked out for 2020 and 21. Number 2, she does her admin 1 day a week. And number 3, if you email her for the second time, she reads her emails from old to new, so you go to the bottom of the pile. Believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot about these women based on simply looking at the way in which they interact with their followers all the time. And that is what influencing truly is all about. So on that note, let's hear from the women themselves. Maybe Sinead, we'll start with you. Could you define the idea of what the world of influencer marketing is and how it's changed since your earliest experiences with it?
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction there, Susan, and thanks for having me here as part of the panel. So I might start back in 2013 and what influencer marketing was when I set out with my blog. So it was 2013 and I was in the bank, and I was a banker by day and a blogger by night. I set up my own fashion blog to entertain mothers, where I'd blog about fashion and beauty. So I suppose when I set out, I was raw to it. The only other influencer I knew was Sosumi. And when I went looking on Instagram and Twitter and the other platforms that I was only getting in tune with at the time, because social media was so raw to me. I couldn't really find any other influencers. So basically in 2013, there was no influencers or bloggers that I knew of, in particular anyway, in the west of Ireland where I'm based. I'm here in Galway. So I used the social media platforms at the time, which was Twitter. I put it out there if there was any influencers or bloggers. I think they were referred to more so back in 2013. If there was any bloggers out there who wanted to meet up, I was going to organise an afternoon tea in the G, and if anybody wanted to join me, come along. So with that, I decided to organise some goodie bags. Afternoon tea would be no good without a little surprise. So I hooked up with Carroll Pharmacy there in Galway City, and we got together 20 goodie bags, and there was 20 bloggers at the event, and we had a fabulous afternoon there. Twitter was on fire, everybody was tweeting, and I think it literally struck me straight away at that point, my God, the power of social media, and how I could be one blogger in the west of Ireland, literally wrought this whole industry, and within a couple of hours we could get 20 bloggers together. So that was amazing power. From there on, then a year later, we ended up hosting our first birthday party, and it was a sellout event in 4 hours. We sold 120 tickets. So that just shows you the scale of how blogging went from, in 1 year, it went from 20 bloggers that I knew of to 120 coming from all around Ireland to meet us back in the G. And also there we had brands showcasing their wares under the roof. And obviously Twitter and Instagram was on fire again. So I suppose from there then we're in 2020, and influencer marketing is the buzzword now. It's all about influencer marketing, and it's not going away. And look at, you have now got the advertising standards of Ireland, you know, putting communications in place where bloggers have to use hashtags and fully declare that it's marketing communication. So this is actually a really welcoming thing as well for it. So that's the major change that has happened probably, and how influencer marketing has grown in the last number of years.
Well, and I think you're right, Sinead. I think you're right. It's not going away, and I think that there's a completely different sense of relationship between a brand and its followers or its audience now, in terms of you know, authenticity is always the word that comes up here. But Aoife, I mean, you've been particularly good at really collecting data, I suppose, from your audience and using that to influence your own influencership thereafter. How has that worked for you, or how did you do that in the first place?
Yeah, I think a big thing for my brand is to really create a community online. So whether that's through my newsletters or whether it's through interacting with, talking about, even say in the cottage moment when we're picking furniture, we're interacting with our followers then. So I think it's always about engaging with them through whatever I do, whether it's creating a new collection or picking a piece of furniture. I always love to ask them for their opinion and really make them feel like they're part of everything I do. I'm really part of the community. So I think creating a community is a huge thing for me at Aoife Ireland.
And Charlene, I've watched you do your nighttime routine. That video that you did, myself and Maria and Sandra, a few of us were talking about this. I mean, you really took us through everything from the mist to the journal to the whole shebang. Like, you really let people into your home, Charlene. So do you feel the same as Aoife, that bringing your audience into everything you do is very, very important?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a two-way relationship between you and your followership, really. And it's about communicating with them so that it's a friendship at the end of the day, and you have to respect that friendship just like you would respect your circle of friends in real life, I suppose. Because the reality is, if it wasn't for your followership, you wouldn't have the opportunities and you wouldn't have a page to do anything on. So I totally agree with Aoife and that it's about building a community, it's about building relationships, and it's about nurturing those little seeds and watching those plants grow. There have been some women with me from the very start, from 2012, 2013, from when I first set up my Facebook page. Some of those women are still with me on my journey, and my lifestyle has completely changed from a 23-year-old young girl who was just into makeup and just loved makeup to a now married woman. I'm a mother of 2, you know, so some of those women have grown with me on that journey, and it's really lovely to see. And as you mentioned a word before, authenticity, and that's something that I really pride myself on, and it's something I hear back time and time again, is that, you know, that people see me as being genuine and authentic, and it is really, really important to let people in to build those relationships.
And when I was introducing you there, Charlene, I mean, the way in which you've determined your USP is I think it's brilliant, and I think it really does speak to a lot of people who can empathise with you. But did you find your USP, or did your USP find you?
Well, I suppose I am that person that I'm talking to as well. So, like, I understood from that woman's point of view what she needed, because I was frustrated. I was looking for what I now offer. So, and I knew that there were, at that time, at the very start, I knew that there were dozens, if not even hundreds of other women that were in similar positions. It was just about reaching them, and that's the power of social media. So yeah, I would say that I was that woman. I still am that woman, and I'm consistently always trying to talk to her and answer her queries or answer her questions, whether that's through an actual direct messaging and us talking one-to-one, or by just doing my nighttime routine, which is very generic and very specific to me. But education is always what it comes back to. You would never see me just say, I'm using this foundation here today, throwing it on. Everything has an education aspect behind it. It's like, okay, what texture is it? What coverage is it? How much is it? Where can you get it? How to apply it best? You know, so it's always coming back to, before they even would ask you the question, you're answering it for them, because that's what people want to know. They want the information. They want to know.
And I think the education is key. And I'm just going to read out a range of comments that have come in here. So one says, really looking forward to hearing these 3 ladies speak. And somebody else says, I've learned everything I know on social media from Sinead and Mini Media. Fantastic training. She's so positive, energetic, and informed. That seems to be coming up again and again and again today, is about the positivity. And it's also coming from the audience. When we ask the audience, you know, what has the pandemic done to your mindset? A lot of the answers were very positive. Jane says, I have, oh, there we go. Sorry, that was Jane. Then also shows how Sinead, this is one for Sinead, shows how the blogging industry has grown. Sinead looks at micro-influencers, which is very interesting too. Some startups can't afford influencers, so good to be able to access the lesser known ones too. Aoife, well done on the opening of your new shop in Adair. Can't wait to see it. Spotted you in the national press last week. Fran says, love it, Charlene. Everything has an education to it, so authentic. Mary McHugh says, lovely to see Charlene. She did my makeup as mother of the bride. Lovely memories. So, Aoife, can we go to you? Tell us about the shop in Adair and what happened. How did you get to that, and so on?
Yeah, so I'm currently in it. We actually moved in, myself and my team moved in last week now. God, it's already nearly been 2 weeks. So yeah, it actually came up during COVID, which is crazy. Like previously, before COVID, I was supposed to move to Dublin and I was supposed to move up there into a studio space. But since COVID happened, I suppose I started to slow down and really like focus on what I actually wanted to do. And moving to Dublin wasn't the right move to me. I think for me, I was looking for a space where I could make my garments, where I could showcase other Irish artists that we're having here, and really have like an innovative hub where I can really test sustainability and Irish and different things like that. So when the cottage came up in Adair, which is 15 minutes from me, it's an old thatched cottage. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's the cutest little cottage in Adair village. It's just outside, well, it's in Limerick, but it's so cute. And everything about my brand is Irish heritage. So to have a thatched cottage, it made so much sense. So yeah, that was a month ago now that I signed the lease and everything like that. So we've been working on it since, and it's nearly good to go. We're having like a big shoot in here this weekend to sort of show the insides and launch everything, and then hopefully we'll be open to the public the week after.
I can just see the excitement oozing from you as well.
I can't wait to just have it like done. I've been painting for like the past month, so I'm excited to be nearly ready.
And on that note, Aoife, how have you crafted the short and the long-term vision? Because I can imagine this is a manifestation of something you've dreamed of for a while. So how does the short term and the long term, how do you do that?
Oh, so I'm big into vision boards. Like it's like my thing. So even like for my team, we've just done up like a 3-page vision of like where we see it going. And I think it's something that is so important if you're a brand starting off, to really dream big and just put all your visions out there, no matter how scary they are. They're like, hey, I'm never going to do that. Like, never think something is too big. I'm really big into like having all your visions just thrown out in front of you. And then really like delve into like the detail. Okay, like if you want to shop, like what will the shop look like in 3 years time? So I have sort of manifested this in my head. I didn't think it'd be so soon, but I am big into manifestations. I'm really believing in a vision, and I really think working backwards from your visions then as to how you're going to get to your visions. I think it's so important to have like that sort of mind frame in how you work, especially having businesses. I think it's hard to sometimes you can lose track of, where you want to go, but I think it's really important to have a solid vision, and especially if you have a team around you, you want them to know where you see yourself going as well. So having a 3 or 1, 2 and 3 year vision is huge for me.
Well, you're getting a lot of agreement here from people. Mary says, really agree with Aoife on this point about dreaming big, setting out your vision. Sandra says, dream big, use a vision board to see it. Claire says, yes to vision boards XX. Now, and one more question for you also, Aoife. Who is your target market for your shop? Is it Irish or Americans? Well, they might be, they'll be on shortly. Adair would be very much a tourist destination, so just wondering.
Yeah, so I suppose the tourist season is nearly over. Well, not that there was much of one this year, but I don't think the Americans will be my target market. I'm obviously not going to turn anyone away, but I suppose I'm big into, I suppose a girl for a birthday party or business women. I'm also big into brides, which is something that we're looking into a lot here, bespoke consultations. So I do have a mix of different. I think it's normally like one of my biggest customers is if it's a 21st birthday or a big occasion, come and they pick out pieces like blouses and things like that. But brides is another thing that we're working on at the moment.
Great. Well, I mean, there's a lot of activity going on there. And Sinead, I'm going to come back to you. I'm just going to put this point to you. So Grania said, I admire all of these ladies. I launched my business in late July and sold out in only 9 minutes thanks to social media engagement that was built on the lead up to that launch. And what I do wonder, Sinead, is like, what are the ingredients of a successful brand and influencer relationship, particularly if, like, possibly in the case of Grania, she was her own brand. But what do you see as the key ingredients? What can people here today really learn from each of the three of you that they can implement themselves?
Yeah, so it's vital that you connect with the right influencer. You know, there's so many influencers out there now that it can be difficult to, get through the hashtags and figure out who are you meant to be following or who's going to be the best person to promote your product and talk about it. Like Charlene said and yourself said there earlier, you have to find somebody who's authentic in what they're saying, and you have to have a connection with them. So that's the starting point. And because of my online platform now, the Irish Blogger Agency, Influencer Marketing Agency, has this fantastic platform now. We had the opportunity to partner with a Swedish company who have now powered this platform where I have over 800 influencers currently on the platform with a reach of 8 million. And it's all broken into different categories. So instead of you searching your Instagram or your Twitter, looking at hashtags to find the right influencer, you can now log onto this platform and find the influencer you're looking for. So I suppose once you do find the influencer, then it's important to, follow them on social media for a while and get to a feel for who they are and what they are. Because, it takes a while to get to know somebody and their antics on social media and to make sure they're a perfect fit for your brand. So I suppose that's definitely a good place to start. And also then when you do engage with the influencer, start nurturing them and giving them a little bit of room to contribute to the campaign if you're going to have a campaign with them. And I suppose that's it, Susan.
So then, again, there's a range of comments coming in here, but Mary just said, what's the name of this platform for finding an influencer, Sinead? You might just repeat that.
Yeah, so irishbloggeragency.com.
And can we also ask you then, Sinead, what about the other side, right? So like, how does somebody know that they're an influencer? How would they know if, okay, should I reach out to Sinead? Maybe I'm an influencer. Maybe I'm the one that should be going to you saying, well, can I become your 801st? What determines if somebody is an influencer, and when should they be reaching out to you from that side?
Yeah, so my particular niche is micro influencers. So that's, I would consider anyone with influence or followers over 1,000 followers on their preferred platform. And then a combination, they could have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It could take them up to 3,000. So anyone who's a following of 1,000. But it doesn't come down to just the followings, it comes down then to the engagement. You could have another influencer with 5,000 followers, and the 1,000 followers may have more engagement. So it's a bit of a mix of both. And our platform will actually show that real life data. It can show you how many followers the influencer has, and also it looks at the key engagement rate. So you're not going into a blind collaboration or a blind contract with an influencer. You can see all the data there. And as there's a tremendous growth in influencer marketing, data is becoming key. So yeah.
Well, that certainly is the case. I think many might be surprised at that, actually, Sinead, that if you have like 1,000 people on one particular platform and there's engagement there, that you could move into the realm, and maybe anybody who wants to talk to any one of our three panelists here today on social media, we're going to make sure that you have all their handles, etc. Charlene, you've moved through a range of phases with your own business, with the bridal makeup, with the influencership, I suppose, but also, of course, just over your head there as well, there is a brand that some people may be familiar with, because then, of course, you've ventured into creating your own brand, like Aoife has done, and in fact, like Sinead has done in her own way as well. So what were the triggers for you to take each step? Would you mind take us through that? Almost like how I put the same question to Lorraine about how she made decisions to move forward.
Yeah, so I suppose it was an evolve of just my career and my own personal goals and my own true happiness, really, at the end of the day. That was what was important to me. So when I started off as a professional makeup artist, I worked full-time as well as working just Fridays and Saturday mornings. So I had a full-time job whilst I was still doing makeup, because at the time, 8 years ago, makeup wasn't really seen as a valid career, I suppose, as such, on its own. But now it's blown up entirely. And I suppose the Facebook started back in 2010, 2011, and I suppose the business aspect of Facebook started, and I was actually working for a marketing agency, a digital marketing agency. So I was training other businesses on Facebook marketing for business. So it just went hand in hand that it was like every entrepreneur just seeing an opportunity there for whatever my voice was, that I was using social media and using Facebook at the time and Twitter to literally talk to other women. And as I mentioned earlier, it was about that reach of like, how do I reach these women and how do I talk to them without having to meet me in person? So the evolve then of Facebook, I remember once doing, it was one of the very first few months of video marketing when it first launched onto Facebook. And I suppose it was just a case of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, because video marketing was very much like, oh God, I hate video. I hate seeing myself, we all have a little bit of that, but I literally just had to grab it by the balls and literally just go and just record what I thought people wanted to see. And it was a 5-minute makeup video that I did. And at the time I only had about 5,000 followers on Facebook. And the video had a viewership of over 35,000 within 48 hours. So it just showed like the viral aspect of video and how strong it actually was. And I suppose coming back to it again, it was education. What is the customer or the follower going to get out of it? And for me, it was answering that common query of the 5-minute makeup. So my followership grew and grew and grew as a result really of that video, and just feeling the fear and just going out there and just putting my knowledge out there on the internet. And then throughout social media, like it has evolved over the last 8-9 years, and it has been Facebook, there's been Twitter, and then there was Snapchat. And I really felt like Snapchat, although it wasn't really a professional business platform, that was really where I saw the most of my growth. And again, it was introducing that whole video aspect to business. Saw my growth on Snapchat, then Instagram was introduced, and Instagram took a lot of the features from Snapchat. But ultimately, it was coming back even to what Aoife mentioned earlier. It was about building that relationship. That was always what it was about. And always never having all your eggs in one basket. Never, you know, I often always say to businesses, like, if social media was to shut down in the morning, where would your business be? And that was always in the back of my mind. So it was always making sure that you didn't have all your eggs on one social media, or didn't have all your eggs ultimately in one basket, that you always have something to fall back on. So bridal makeup was my bread and butter. The online side of it just was something that I really enjoyed doing, and educating people, which did turn into a business side of my business as well, in terms of I traveled around the country doing sellout makeup masterclasses, where I would have 50 to 200 women in a room, and I'd be educating them and teaching them on makeup. And then where Ella and Joe came out of then was actually myself and my business partner, Niamh. It was literally a case of answering questions, again, answering common skin concerns. We both have an extremely strong passion for skin and for skincare. It goes hand in hand with the work that I do already. And our very first product was a makeup brush cleaner, which was an antibacterial brush cleaner. And people often kind of don't associate, like, our motto is clean brushes equals clear skin, you know? So it was actually how cleaning your brushes is part of your skincare routine. And we like to create products that make women's lives easier, and ultimately helping them to feel more confident in themselves, because they will have better skin as a result. So it has just evolved, I suppose, from my perspective, a bit like Aoife as well. It's like looking at that vision board. My lifestyle has changed over the last few years, where I'm now a mum of 2 under 2. So I suppose I just always had to set myself up that I always had plan Bs in business, and that I wasn't putting everything all, as I said, in the one basket. So it has just evolved. I never forced anything. I just went with the flow. I never had any motives when it came to social media. It was never about brands approaching me. It was always about the woman on the other side. And I think that's just where then my relationship with brands came through, was that they saw the authenticity between my relationship and my followers, and they just wanted me then to promote their brands. And yeah, that was kind of the evolve. I suppose I've just taken everything in my stride, keeping everything extremely professional, always making sure that whether it's a brand, whether it's the follower, it's always about a two-way system. What do they get out of it, and what do I get out of it, you know? Mm-hmm. So that you're always communicating that, and that everybody kind of knows where they stand, you know?
Well, I think it's interesting just how you talk about how the brands have changed as well, like whether you go from, like we mentioned, Facebook and then Snapchat, now Instagram. Sinead, where do you see the future being? Is it all about Facebook? Is Facebook gone? Is Instagram only where it's at? What about Twitter? Is there a new one? What about TikTok? What do you think there? If we could get a free consultation from Mini Media.
I'm in my 40s now. I just turned 43 there at the weekend. So I'm all about Facebook, the Facebook, the Instagram. I used to love Twitter. Like, Twitter was fantastic when I started out. You know, it was a great place to engage with people and connect with people. And I actually built up a massive online community there. And it was great to meet some of them people offline. But I also have almost 2 teenagers in the house. One is 15 and the other is turning 13 this month. So they're all about the TikTok, even the Insta stories now, and the ads coming up there. So it really depends on your audience. You have to find out where your audience are hanging out. So if you're marketing teenage clothing or trying to sell to that audience, they're hanging out right now on TikTok and Instagram stories. So know your audience, and maybe focus on 2 platforms. That's what I always say first. Don't get overwhelmed by them all, you know. So pick 2 that suits your audience and your business.
Well, so Rachel says happy birthday, Sinead. So that's Mary from Westbeck. Thanks for your support for Empower Also is another. Sandra says, wonderful to have the opportunity to showcase all the local talent and share the learnings. Now, Mary Ryan puts an interesting point. And I'm going to put it to you, Sinead, on this. And that is, she says, don't forget the power of LinkedIn for making business-to-business connections. Great webinar and panelists excellent. Well done, Empower. And absolutely well done to Empower. You're all amazing. And I don't say that lightly. but I have certainly found myself that I do LinkedIn video quite a lot, and it's probably the one that gets the most reach, and I have a very clear message that I want to get across, and an awful lot of where the business that I'm in is business to business. So I find LinkedIn is really great for that. But yet when I look at the capability, let's say, of LinkedIn video, it isn't a patch on Facebook video or IGTV or anything else like that. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn for marketing particularly?
I don't know how I forgot about LinkedIn, because I've been on LinkedIn since I had my 15-year career in the bank. So that's where I started out as well, between Twitter and LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is so powerful. Obviously, the cost of advertising on LinkedIn is cheaper also. So definitely LinkedIn is another fantastic platform, and especially for B2B.
Well, a question has just come in here now that I think I would just maybe like to just quickly check in with you all. And please do send in your comments. Send them in on chat, send them in the Q&A, send them in wherever you like, wherever you can find me, send them in to me. And that is, how do you manage your time with social media? With work-life balance, I can imagine it eats into that also. And I follow you all, and I've seen work and life balance, or certainly one bled into the other with several of your posts. So could I just maybe just go around? Maybe I'll start with you, Aoife. Does social media eat into that?
Yeah, so for me, I'm really big into scheduling my time. So I'm really big into planning ahead for when it comes to social media and like posting online. So I have UNUM, so it sort of tracks out your whole week as to how you're going to post, because sometimes it does take up a lot of time, and it is very time consuming doing social media and then having a business and trying to do 2 pages if you have your business account as well. But I think it's starting with planning ahead and like scheduling your posts and getting a file of
Okay, so getting ahead, planning your posts.
File faxes are so good just for planning everything out. But yeah, sorry, my internet went there.
Well, I know. Well, I was just about to say, I think that's the key idea, is that if you can create boundaries around that. Charlene, in your case, I mean, does it eat into your work-life balance? Does it blend it more? Does it bind it more?
That's something that I work on constantly. And as I said, I have 2 children under the age of 2. So the last 2 years definitely has challenged me, to say the least, and trying to find that work-life balance. And kudos to, I'm actually on the Empower Her program, and kudos to the team and the guys there. They're very, very good at helping us, to really, really emphasize and structure, our time, because we spend so much time working in the business that we forget to actually work on the business ourselves. So I've actually been, since having my firstborn, I just over 2 years ago, I definitely had to get much better at structuring my weekly calendar. So a bit like Aoife, I have my content calendar as such done out, and I work very closely with a lot of brands. And then obviously I'm running my own brand, Ella and Joe Cosmetics. So I have to really structure out the week and making sure that I internally am happy, because that's what it's all about for me. It's about, being at home with my kids as much as I can. And when I'm at home with them, I'm at home with them, and I'm not working whilst at home with them, and that sometimes does eat into each other, and there's nothing you can do about that. I don't have any guilt, when weeks like that happen. So, but trying as much as you can to have a 90 to 95% structure. Like I'm laughing at you about my autoresponder on my email. Everything for me is about reducing down the amount of manual work that I actually have to do in the business. So whether that's a very clear autoresponder, which is essentially my response to my customer that my diary is closed, or previous to when my diary was closed, it was people would send an email and say, "Hi Charlene, just wondering, are you available on this date?" I had an autoresponder that brought them to a web page on my website that I wanted all the information from them, like how many people, where did they live, so that when I went back to them, that there wasn't 3 or 4 emails going back and forth, that literally I had all the information in one go. I had one form of communication that was purely through my email. I cut out the business phone. I cut out the answering messages in DMs for appointments. It was all through one avenue. And that's what ultimately it was all about, just structuring myself so that I could be as focused and be as kind of as focused as I could be on each given day. And I try to be strict with myself. So I have my set days when I work on things, but sometimes things overlap, and that's okay too. And that's just life of being a mum and being an entrepreneur, you know, that you can't have a balance all of the time.
Well, what I'm just going to mention two things there to people if anybody wants to pick up on that. One is that if you want to create like what Charlene says there on your website, collecting all the information, a Google form can work like that in a free area, and a great tool to actually describe where people can decide on the time that they can pick, let's say to book your time or something like that, can also be Calendly. I use that as well for different things that can be very, very helpful. Sinead, can I go to you on this? Actually, on the whole idea of work-life balance, but also I just want to mention again a couple of more comments that are coming in. Anne says, great speakers, very interesting morning. Thank you, Empower. Absolutely, Anne. Thank you too. Jackie says, I'm so impressed by these amazing women. Their authenticity and approachability is inspiring, and it makes total sense why they're successful in their fields. As somebody just taking the very first steps into the world of business, do you think it's important to have mentors? And do you have any advice on getting a mentor? So many questions about so many things and so much to learn, but I am conscious that business women are busy. Are business networking agencies the best place to start, or is it better to have one or two mentors? Sinead?
God, the timing of this question is just ironic. If you had asked me this a year ago, I would have said I've never worked with a mentor. And in September, I had to make a decision, September 2019. I need somebody in my life. I can't be talking to my husband. I can't be wrecking my teenagers' heads anymore. So I went and found a coach. Literally, she spoke to me online through an Instagram ad. And it turns out I got 4 months coaching with her to change my mindset. I was kind of on a hamster wheel, because when you're working for yourself as a solo entrepreneur, and I have a lot going on as well with the 3 kids, and so definitely getting a mentor not only freed up hours, but made me realize what were my values, and took me back a step to make me realize I didn't have to work 80 hours a week. Since then, I've continued working with another mentor on a different topic. She's a conscious creation coach, and I've been working with her since January. And I've reduced my hours from probably 80 to 40, and I've tripled my sales even in COVID. So working with the mentor, I couldn't even put enough value on it. It's just been amazing in my life.
Wow, that's quite the advice there, Sinead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask one more question to Aoife, then I'm going to do the same as I did in the first panel. I'm going to put up a screen again where you can put in your takeaways, and I'm going to ask the speakers to comment on them. But if I want to put this to you, a couple of comments first. By the way, thank you so much to this amazing audience. You make my job so easy. All I have to do is read what you tell me here and put it to these fantastic speakers. Number one, Grania says, again, I agree with this. Graw Chocolates was first launched on Instagram, but I quickly realized that my target audience was on Twitter, and that has proven to be a much more effective way to target my target audience. And then though, Christine says, Aoife, and this is a question I really want to put to you, social media is something I worry about. And is it a good idea to employ somebody to do it for you if you can afford it? I'm going back to the authenticity point. And I know I could go to Sinead on this and she'd have a lot to tell me, but I particularly want to pick up, like, you know, your brand is new. You're somebody that really wants to drive the brand forward. Your name is in your brand as well. So how would you feel about taking on somebody to do your social media for you?
I suppose I have two different, so I suppose I have Aoife McNamara, which is my personal social media, and then I have Aoife Ireland, which is my brand. So I actually do have interns working on the Aoife Ireland one at the moment, but everything that goes on to that is content that I have created. So I've created my own, like, say if it's a Pinterest board, if there's Pinterest inspiration photos, or if they're photos from content from Aoife Ireland. They're all images that I've chosen already. So I'm definitely not against someone else doing your social media, but I think you should always know what's going to be going up. Like, I can see her plan for the week and I can say, oh, I don't like that photo, I like this photo. So I think it's very important to know, if you're getting someone, they know your vision. Back to the vision again, you both align with the same vision. She knows what you want, she knows what messaging you want to tell your customers. So it's all very important to sort of bring it back to having boards, having a schedule in place, so that you know what exactly is going out on your business account if you have someone else doing it. But for my own personal one, I'd never change that to not me.
And again, I think that's a really important point to make there is you know, where do you draw the line? I'm put the link in there. I've put the link into the chat. Please do pop up your key takeaways from today, from this particular group of speakers. I'm just going to read out lots more here comments. Elva says, Aoife, would love to hear more on your thoughts on mentoring versus coaching. Anya says, 100% agree with Aoife. It's so important that anyone managing your social media accounts knows your vision. Never have all your eggs in one basket, Charlene, that's for you. They are human, they are focused, and they know what they need and how to do it. I think that definitely goes to you all. Again, I think, Charlene, this is one of your statements. It's about the woman on the other side. Aoife, Sinead, I mean, you all highly organised and finding smart ways of using your time. They're down to earth normal, so needed in our world today. And I think, I don't know whether the three of you do a lot of this, but I think you do it very well. But I also think this is a really, really other great way to connect with people so that they get a chance to talk to you behind. In essence, it's the business behind the brand we've got to see today. Great to hear that we do not have to use all social media. Sinead, that's one for you. Structure, schedule, and discipline. Stay authentic, focus on where your clients hang out. I think, again, that one could have come from you all in different ways. Work backwards to get your vision manifestation. Aoife, you've been clearly very, very consistent in that about the vision and making that manifest. Authenticity, efficiency, passion, and love. Charlene's grab it by the balls. There you go, Charlene. That one was definitely attributed to you. I love Sinead's insight that she is selling to. That's herself. It grounds her and makes her authentic. Match social media with your customers, be authentic, develop relationships, connect with the right influencers, have a vision, plan your time. People can identify with all three. So as you can see here, there's really an awful lot that people are taking away, and I'm going to leave that run there. Also on my other screen, I have 3 screens here in front of me, by the way, just so that everyone's aware that this is how I'm managing. And Mary says, hard to let someone do our marketing, as counselling is such a delicate area to work with and to connect with people in their struggle, and that's understandable. Kathleen Kinsella said, Susan Hayes Culleton was my mentor. Sorry, I didn't realise it's going to come up. Susan Hayes Culleton was my mentor a few years ago. Great help to help me find my way in business. Really delighted to hear from you, Kathleen, and thank you very much for mentioning that. Brian says, Gymshark grew rapidly by using influencers. Aisling says, I think it's important to know what pitfalls exist in your sphere in regards to social media. I'm hoping to make something to help my special needs sister, but my God, the anti-vaxxers who jump on any comment that you make. And then, yeah, a range of other comments that jump in there. So the 3 of you can see what people are picking up on what you're saying. And maybe as we go to your the last word from you, again, they keep coming in, we're going up to 26 there. So we'd really love to hear lots more of what you've taken out of today. Lisa says 3 very passionate women in business. If I was to ask you, Sinead, what's the one key thing that you think really resonates with people, that resonated this morning, that you think is really important that you want to drive home before we finish?
Yeah, I think from influencer marketing point of view, it's not as scary as people think. There is ways of finding influencers at the click of a button. There is a cost, but if you find the right influencer, it'll be worth it. When it comes to the social media, I mean, there's so many platforms out there now, and you can get overwhelmed in the whole digital marketing space, between setting up your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it may be, as well as a website, as well as email marketing. But if you sit down and think of it like, make your plan and plan your strategy. If you don't have a strategy, you're directionless, and it doesn't all have to happen overnight. Like, I plan to grow Irish Blogger Agency for the next 10, 20 years. It can be a slow burn at the start, but it will be worth it. So have patience and try not to get overwhelmed if you can at all.
And I'm actually just going to just ask if somebody from the Empower team might actually just share the details for Sinead of Irish Blogger Agency and Mini Media. So if anybody wants to reach out to Sinead directly, either as a brand or as a potential influencer, just want to make sure that everybody has their details. Aoife, in your case, what do you feel is the real key thing that you want people to leave with today? And like, obviously, again, we can see here what people are resonating with. Is it the vision board? Is it the passion? Is it the planning? What key thing do you want to make sure people leave with today?
I think it's definitely starting with like, what is your passion? What would you do in the morning, like happily? So starting with really finding out what you love doing and starting a vision board, dreaming like crazy thoughts, like just go totally out there of like where you see yourself even 10 years time, and really create that picture, manifest it in your head of like where you want to go, and then work backwards on how to get there. So yeah, I think it's starting with a vision board. I think it's so important.
And yeah, that's certainly something that's coming up here a lot. I love to do it myself. I'm a journaler myself, more so than visual. I have to say, by the way, I'm in complete awe of the three of you, the way in which you do what you do. In many ways, I'm not actually a great visual person. I have to get a lot of help in that. As I told somebody in Empower during the week, I go to a personal shopper once a year because I can't dress myself. I can make a Google sheet or a spreadsheet, sing and dance for you. But when it comes to picking anything to wear, yeah, I was kindly given a present of a personal shopper experience from my mother, which was, kindly telling me, come on now, we have to do something here. Charlene, in your case, also as well, if I could ask somebody from the Empower team to please share Aoife Ireland and Aoife McNamara's details on the chat. Charlene, the one key thing you'd like people to take away, loads of what you've said has appeared here on my own vision board, generated here by everybody. We've 27 comments. Please do keep them coming. We'll share them with everybody afterwards, and they're all anonymous. So it's great to just hear what people have heard you say. But what key thing do you want to make sure they take from what you've said today?
So I suppose learning, education. So it's all about the what's in it for them and what's in it for, for me as well. It's about taking everything that's like up here in your head and in what way or what form can I put it out there on social media or on a digital level. Because obviously we're all in business and we've all gone into business for whatever reason we have. We have all this information, we have all this knowledge, but when we are in the business, we just take it for granted that people understand and that people know what's up in our heads, whereas it's not. So it's about talking to your customer, finding out who he or she or they are, and finding out, what exactly it is that they want, and then figuring out what way from a digital aspect can you bring that voice across. And even just something earlier, whenever you were talking about the social media, something that was really, really essential for us as a brand, for Ella and Joe, was actually building what's called a brand Bible. And that is everything from your logo to your color structures to your vision, your mission, like what your voice is, who your customer is. And something that we were even working on through the Empower program is like your empathy map, figuring out who your customer is, what he or she wants, what are they interested in, what do they do, where do they eat, do they eat out, do they get takeaways, like really figuring out who your customer is and then learning how it is that you need to talk to them, and that you're not using social media as an advertising tool. Always remember that it's like a two-way conversation, and that you're always trying to, what is in it for the customer? Every single time you post on social media, it's what value is this bringing to the end user, or what are they going to be able to take home from it? And then measure it. Measure like how those posts or how those blogs or whatever it is that you might be doing, how are they performing? It's all about measuring and seeing what possibly may be performing better than others. And it's always just about talking to your customer. It's always about talking to your followers and measuring and what's in it for them. And that's kind of it.
And on that note, also, we the team at Empower have just shared Charlene's details on Instagram, and both on Ella and Joe and Charlene Flanagan Makeup. So, again, to all of you, thank you so much indeed for your time today and for your insights. I'm going to share a couple of things that I've picked up from you myself. So, start with you, Sinead. So, Sinead said about the power of social media. It continues to grow and grow and grow, and it's something that has been immensely powerful in her own business and for many others. She says influencer marketing is not going away. And she said it's really important to connect with the right influencer. Online, she created Irish Blogger Agency, which matches brands and influencers together with a view to finding, as she mentioned, she's 800 influencers with a reach of over 8 million. I think I got those numbers right. There was 2 8s in it anyway. She says data is absolutely key. And she said it's really important to find out where your audience is hanging out, whether that's TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. She particularly mentioned after we had a conversation about various different platforms, she said LinkedIn is really, really powerful. The cost of advertising is cheaper. And she said to pick 2 though, pick 2 and commit. She said as of the end of last year, she said she needed somebody in her life that was external to help her with her business, and she has since tripled her turnover in terms of how she's been working despite COVID. She said the key point she wanted to make is that influencer marketing is not as scary as people think. There is a cost, but it's worth it. Then Aoife said, it's so important to engage with your audience. She posts everything that she does. She has the cutest little cottage in Adair. And since she is all about Irish heritage, it dovetails right in. COVID directed her in a different way because she was supposed to be in a studio in Dublin, but it's all working out well. She spoke a lot about vision boards, and you loved the fact that she spoke about vision boards. She said she's a 3-page vision, dream big, crazy thoughts, no matter how big, and then delve into the detail and manifest them in your head. She said it's very important to schedule time and get your track your week, plan ahead, figure out what you're going to post and when. When asked the question, and it's a really important question, around what do you do when you're giving your social media to other people, she said the content is what she has created, the photos come from Aoife Ireland that she has picked, she knows what's coming up, the vision and the content, and she decides from there. Then Charlene said, it's friendship at the end of the day. She said she was and is the woman on the other side of her social media content and feed. She does resonate with them. She said authenticity is so important and people do see her as genuine. She doesn't just talk about foundation and just put it on, but it's about how it affects your skin, the best way to put it on, where it comes from, what the price is. It's all about education. She said education is so important, but she kept on coming back over and over again to her own happiness. That is what ultimately drives the bus, and that her business is built around making sure that that happens. She spoke about being a makeup artist and then delivering courses in Facebook marketing. Things went hand in hand, and then she just went for it. And again, I won't refer to the phrase that she mentioned that everyone remembers now, but she speaks about how Facebook video did go viral. She had only 5,000 followers, she'd only 5,000 followers at the time, and the video reached 35,000. And then she said the key thing she thinks about when she puts something together is what is the follower going to get out of this. She also speaks about it's important not to have all of your eggs in one basket, and that if social media was shut down tomorrow, what then? So she has a diversified nature, and she said it's also about managing your time effectively. She talks about taking the manual work out of your engagement with customers. For example, the autoresponder that she has, and the link to her website where she captures all of the information, and she thinks that way. So again, she can come back to making sure that happiness is at her core. Thank you so much indeed to each and every single one of you. You've been amazing. We knew you would be, but really and truly, as I capture and look at all the comments that's come on my screen and on Menti over here and on my comments that have come here and questions in here, you've really, really resonated with a lot of people. You've given a lot of value. Thank you to each and every one of you. And we wish you the very best sincerely in all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome, guys, and we're going to see you again soon. So now we are coming to the part where what I'm going to do now is that I have a great job ahead of me, which is that I'm going to introduce the various different people who are going to be pitching to us today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure that I have everybody. Okay, so I'm going to start off with bringing in, I'm going to ask Marina Murphy. I'm just going to, Marina, what I'm just going to ask you to do now is I'm going to ask you just to turn on your video and your mic. Also, Niamh, I'm going to ask you to do the same. So I'm just going to make sure that you can do the same. Okay, so Niamh, Niamh, we're set up there. Marina, so can I just ask you, Marina, can I just make sure where you are, just make sure now that you are here with me. Or maybe I need to, yeah, okay. So I'm just going to check there. Marina, if you could turn on your video and your mic as well, please.
Yeah, my video's on.
Super.
Yeah.
Very good. Perfect. Perfect.
And you can hear me. Great.
Yep, we can hear you. Yep, we can hear you very well. And we're just all going well now, just making sure that everything is okay there. Now, what I'm going to do at this stage is that I'm also going to ask afterwards, I'm going to ask Mary McKenna to comment. I'm going to ask Mary McKenna to comment on each of the pitches as they come through. So, but just before I do, just to make sure we have everything up and running and that our pitchers have a chance to get themselves together and organised. Anya says, really enjoying all the speakers, and Susan, you're doing an incredible job, so applause to you too. Thank you, Anya, you're very, very kind. Aoife said, fantastic event, so well organised and lots of insights being shared. Anne says, excellent panel of speakers, expertly hosted by Susan. Thank you to all. This is the embarrassing part. I'm so humbled by your comments, but I'm reading them out. I feel I should be authentic and tell you what people are saying. And if you have negative stuff, don't worry, I'll read that out too. Una says, thank you, Maria and Susan and all of the panelists. It's been a great morning and I've learned so much from all of these amazing ladies. So really great to see, guys. That fabulous. Thanks so much, says Rachel. Wonderful speakers, says Septa. Mary says, Susan, you provide such comprehensive summaries. Well done, brilliant MC. Mary, it's a job I absolutely love to do, truly, truly love to do. And I think it's so important. I know there's so much going on in all of your worlds, and particularly when it's online, it's important that we get the key points across. So I now have, as I say, the great job of introducing our pitchers. Now I'm going to do a very, very short job of this. All I'm going to say is their name. I'm going to say their website. But after that, as I say, the power is in your hands. So I'm not going to say any more. At the end, I'm going to thank them. I'm going to go to Mary for a comment, and then I'm going to move on to the next picture. That's all I'm going to do. I do not want to influence anything whatsoever. So here's where my summarization is going to stop. And the power, as I say, is entirely in your hands. To remind you of the prize, a 750 euro voucher sponsored by the Leo. There's also going to be mentoring from Grant Thornton. And so that's all I'm going to say. That, as I mentioned, the power is in your hands. We still have over 100 people on the call who are going to decide who gets the prize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. Niamh, we're going to start with you. I am going to move you into the spotlight, okay? And you now, the floor is yours. All I'm going to say is this is Niamh Ryle, and that's all. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to hand it over to you now, Niamh, and the clock is ticking. You've got 4 minutes.
So HomeCheck is a service provider specialising in property surveys for home buyers. My name is Niamh and I'm a qualified civil engineer. And prior to setting up HomeCheck, I had worked for over 15 years on large-scale engineering projects. Like many, I had been through the home buying process a few times with my family, and I felt that when it came to engineers and building surveyors that I could provide a better service than what was available. Buying a house can be an incredibly frustrating process with too many stops and starts. HomeCheck's mission is to deliver our part of the process seamlessly and without contributing to delays. We are personable, technical advisors in the property buying process. Structural reports are now a requirement of most mortgage providers, and therefore I could see an increasing demand for our service. I developed a standardized, comprehensive property check equivalent to an NCT for a house, and targeted buyers by means of online advertising. Over half of HomeCheck's customers come to us via our mobile site, and our customers include a high percentage of first-time buyers, overseas buyers, and people who've moved to Ireland from other countries. So here's how HomeCheck works. Clients input a quote request via our online platform or by phone, and they receive a prompt quote by email within 2 hours. When the quote is accepted, we arrange access to the property and complete a comprehensive review of the property. We aim to have the survey and report compiled within 5 business days. Unlike traditional survey reports, our HomeCheck report not only satisfies the technical needs of solicitors and lenders, it's primarily aimed at providing our client, the home buyer, with a clear picture of the construction and condition of the building and identifies the potential costs and risks associated with their purchase. Quality is paramount. So there are currently 50 to 60,000 property sales in Ireland per annum, and we estimate the total national spend on pre-purchase surveys to be of the order of 15 million. By the end of 2018, we had the capacity to deliver a service far beyond one woman engineer in Galway, and that's me. We road tested a few business models for expansion and settled on a unique partnership model based on tight alliances with engineers and surveyors in other areas. We divided the country into geographical units based on population, and we firstly extended to Limerick and Clare, then East County Galway, Westmeath, and now into Mayo. We currently cover a geographical area from Kerry to Sligo and are actively looking for partners in Cork and the Midlands. Business partners are carefully selected to ensure that the HomeCheck brand retains the culture and high quality service that we pride ourselves on. The partnership model that we employ with our partners is simple and effective. HomeCheck sources and engages with customers through our targeted online advertising campaigns. Once a booking is received, we forward the relevant job details to our partner, who then carries out the survey using HomeCheck software and submits the report to our HomeCheck central system. The customer downloads and pays for the report in one go. We provide the back office, marketing and billing systems needed to bring our partners' businesses forward, and by partnering with HomeCheck, our partners are freed up to do what they do best, which is engineering work. We work on a revenue share business model, and revenues are split with our partners at month end. We lean heavily on new technologies and minimize our running costs by in-house software development of our business management systems and our engineering reporting systems. And then combined with the patience and diligence of our engineers, we provide an efficient and consistently high quality service. We will continue our expansion within Ireland with the aim of becoming a national go-to name for property buyers. I was a participant on the 2018 Empower programme, the first year of the course, and I was introduced to Maria Staunton and the iHub at that stage. And Maria continues to provide backup to me, for which I'm very grateful. I would highly recommend that anyone starting out would apply for the Empower course. And then finally, just to wrap up, to say thank you to Brian Reynolds, who gave me great time with the pitch. Thank you, everybody.
Niamh, well done. Your business is homecheck.ie, and thank you for taking up the opportunity, because I know it isn't easy, and I know particularly to go first. So the next person that I'm now going to go to is Sept Gallagher, and just like I did with Niamh, Sept, if you just turn on your sound, please, and yeah. The stage is yours.
Hi everyone. Not that long ago, I checked in with a receptionist in the GP surgery. I was directed upstairs to meet the GP with whom I'd had a scheduled meeting, knocked on her door, and when I entered, this GP, who I had previously only spoken to by phone, stood up to greet me and then burst into tears. The normal greeting would have been a handshake, but after a short pause, my instinct was to offer this clearly troubled GP a hug. Once we began to talk, she said that when I walked into her room, she felt a strong sense that I would provide the solutions to solve the many issues in her practice, and this is why she became so emotional. The stress and overwhelm had been building up for a long period of time. The issues were many: a practice manager who wasn't performing, lack of systems and processes for running the business side of the practice, and low staff morale. The overwhelm had come about as the GP had effectively taken on the practice management role on top of an already demanding workload, including patient care and all the associated admin. My name is Sept Gallagher, and I'm the owner and founder of Best Practice, a consultancy and training business which was established in early 2018 to help GPs deal with these types of issues and more. I work in several different ways, one-to-one with GPs and their staff, both in-house and remotely, providing general business consultancy services in the areas of practice management, business strategy, and HR. To date, I've delivered a variety of customized training to over 400 GPs, practice managers, and medical receptionists through live workshops, online webinars, and remote training. Almost all of us have a GP, and like all medical professionals, they're generally patient-centered, and their roles as business owners and employers, although important, are often secondary to this. With over 20 years experience both as a manager and a business consultant, I have first-hand experience of the unique challenges that are associated with running a patient-centered business. I currently have a team of experts that I work with when I require specialized advice, such as in employment law, GDPR, or finance. But my mission is to have a one-stop shop for GPs who wish to access a range of expertise to cover all aspects of running a successful and profitable business. When I carried out a full audit and review of the practice I referred to earlier, I discovered that they were losing out on thousands of euro every month. This was a combination of unclaimed state income and private patient income. The practice manager had received no formal training, which is why management tasks kept ending up on the GP's desk. Staff weren't being managed effectively, which resulted in lack of motivation and general low morale. Best practice put a training plan in place for the manager and staff. Processes and systems were streamlined and key tasks were delegated to appropriate staff. I managed to recover just over 24,000 in unclaimed state income and unpaid accounts. Following a recent review, the practice team now have the tools to successfully implement their new systems and processes, which has resulted in a 15% increase in monthly income, and the staff appear much more engaged and happier in their respective roles, having received appropriate support and training. HR challenges, along with unclaimed income, have been the common denominator in all 22 practices I have worked with to date, reclaimed amounts varying between 4,500 and 37,000 euro. GPs benefit hugely from my experience, as ultimately I help to remove the underlying stress and overwhelm, allowing them more time to be the doctors they want to be, and patients then get the care that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Assumpta. And Assumpta is from bestpractice.ie. So again, keep your thoughts. We're going to be opening up the poll very shortly. And I'm going to ask Marina Murphy to introduce her business, which is babybossonline.com. And then I'm going to be going to Mary for a comment. And then we'll be opening the poll for voting. Marina, stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Marina Murphy and I'm a mum to Anna. I'm the founder of Baby Boss and I'm the inventor of the patented two-part baby vest called the Toosie. I'm going to talk to you today about how we came up with the idea, how we validated the product and our plans to scale and bring new products on stream. Have you ever had to remove all of a baby's clothes to change a vest where only the bottom part is wet due to a leaky nappy? This can happen in a car, in the park, on your lap, or somewhere with no changing facilities. Whether it's while out and about, or even just at home in the middle of the night, the nappy is full and the bottom part of the vest is wet. To change the wet vest, you have to remove all of the baby's clothes. Well, not anymore. My light bulb moment came when my daughter Anna picked up a tummy book. The bottom part of her vest kept getting wet and she had to be changed 4 times in 1 hour. This meant I had to remove all her clothes each time. This was very stressful on Anna as she was very lethargic. In frustration, I searched online for something more practical, but found nothing. This is when it hit me, the two-part baby vest, the Toosie. The unique selling point of the Toosie is that it is detachable. It's designed so you don't have to remove all your baby's clothes just to change a wet vest. It comes with 1 top and 2 bottom parts, and the concept is patented. It's made from 100% organic cotton, and all our packaging is 100% compostable. Did you know the baby clothing market is worth 135 billion? A small chunk of this market would mean a very sizable return. We sell the Toosie primarily directly to customers through our website, babybossonline.com. We connect with customers mainly through Facebook and Instagram ads, and we've also featured on Ireland AM, the Irish Times, Mums and Tots, and the RSVP magazine. We have 2 key segments: parents, mostly mothers, and the gift market. We know people love the Toosie and want it. We've already sold 1,000 units with a soft launch last November 2019 and very little marketing behind us. We've had over 110,000 people visit our website and could have easily sold another 1,000 Toosies if COVID hadn't caused delays in getting stock. However, we do have 3,000 vests arriving in the next few weeks. Based on our most recent order with our manufacturers, the Toosie will deliver a 68% gross margin and approximately 40% net profit. Now that we have validated the product and the fact that there is a market, the challenge is scaling up and becoming international. The Toosie has a range of other uses. For example, we've had parents purchase a Toosie for their sick children in hospital, and children who are peg fed. We also intend to sell the Toosie as a travel vest in airports. We've also developed a Toosie for children and babies with special needs, autism and sensory issues. We have a range of other convenient product ideas, which unfortunately I can't go into in such a public forum. My background is culinary arts, and I specialise in pastry. I ran and owned 2 restaurants, one in Dublin and one in Mayo. I also did some restaurant consultancy and was responsible for managing large culinary teams in Dublin. My partner Aidan is a solicitor and he specialises in sports law and data protection. In summary, the market for baby clothes is huge. The Toosie is truly, truly innovative, and we are the team to scale the Baby Boss brand into the global brand I passionately believe it can be. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Marina. And Marina is from babybossonline.com, and I'm just going to change the video. Okay, now at this point, I am now going to bring in Mary. So Mary is just going to comment on each of the 3. And just to get your thoughts, Mary, and at that stage, please do get your thoughts together. All of you who are now online with us, you will be voting very, very soon. And I'm just going to, Mary, let's hear from you.
Well, I was going to comment on all of the pictures at once, actually, Susan, if that was okay. So I thought that they were accomplished and confident pictures from all 3 ladies and 3 very good businesses. It's very, very hard to pitch comprehensively without slides. So well done for the ladies that did that. It's not an easy thing to do. And I also thought it was very interesting that they are 3 businesses in which women can really excel as the founder. And I think that that's a kind of an interesting twist there, that and I would love to have conversations with all 3 of you about what you're doing. So well done, everybody. Great pictures.
Thanks, Mary. And as always, inspiring words. And I can tell you again from genuine experience that when Mary says that she will have a conversation with you, that is real. So the moment of truth, indeed. So what I'm now going to do, okay, so again, 3 businesses. We had bestpractice.ie, homecheck.ie, babybossonline.com. So what I'm now going to do is that I'm now going to open the poll. Okay, so I'm just opening it up here on my screen. And the poll is called Cast Your Vote. Okay, and I'm going to give you a minute. I'm simply going to talk just so you know that I'm still here, but I'm just going to give you a minute. Also, just for complete transparency, none of the panelists can vote. That includes Mary, that includes me, that includes Maria. None of us can vote. The power is genuinely in your hands. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the poll is now open, and I can see how it's developing. By God, you're voting fast. 58% of you have voted. Oh, sorry, I'm very nervous for you here. Okay, things have changed a little bit now. 73% of you have voted, and we are now 30 seconds in. I am going to leave it for a minute because I said I would, despite the fact that I probably won't really need to. But 74% of you have voted. We have 40 seconds have gone. There's been a load of lovely comments in the comment section to say how well you all did. And okay, so we have got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm now ending the polling, and here's the results. Well done to bestpractice.ie with 48% of the vote. A sincere well done indeed, Assumpta. You have won the prize of the €750, as well as the mentoring from Grant Thornton. So you might maybe just, I'm going to put you back in the spotlight if you just want to say anything to the people who have cast their vote.
Thank you so much. I'm actually quite emotional. That's amazing. Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled. I'm so passionate about my business, and I often think people don't really understand what I do, but I love what I do, and I really genuinely enjoy helping the people, the clients that I help. So again, huge thanks to everybody. It's been a fantastic morning. Every second of it has been amazing. Speakers, the insights, everything. I have learned so much from it. Well done to the other two guys as well. They're both great businesses. Well done. I already know about you guys anyway, obviously, because you are amazing. And thanks again. Hugely appreciated.
Well done. Well done indeed, Assumpta. And absolutely to Marina and to Niamh as well. Marina, would you just like to just to remind us of your website, please?
Yeah, it's babybossonline.com. Thank you, Susan.
Wonderful, thank you. And similarly as well, Niamh, if you could just unmute there for a moment and just remind us, please.
So it's homecheck.ie.
Well done, well done. It really is not an easy thing to do to pitch in that way, and there's floods and floods and floods of comments that are coming in here of people who are congratulating you. So at this point, I am going to bring in Sandra. So Sandra is just going to tell us all about the Empower Start program. And she's going to take us through that. Just before we talk about that, I just want to very, very briefly, I would just want to say thanks a million to the guys at Clear Bookings, because what they have done is they have enabled us to be able to run this event, to capture all the bookings and send you out the emails, the confirmation emails, the reminder emails. So really would just want to say thanks to them. We have also an invite-only evening that is happening this evening, and you are all heartily invited. We will be sending you out the details of that. Taking place tonight at 7 o'clock, we have the fantastic Noeline Blackwell from the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre, who's going to talk about women finding their voice in a wide variety of scenarios. We're also going to have a surprise for you, where you will need rum, fresh mint and brown sugar, saying nothing. And also we're going to have Dr. Claire Desbonnet as well, who's going to talk about women in leadership. That's taking place tonight from 7 until 8:30 online. You're going to have more of me and more of their fantastic speakers and a couple of other people as well. Now, and the very last thing I want to do is I just want to talk about the fact that it's so important to get really good advice. So many people have spoken about having mentors and getting people to talk to who are in the way or in the space of advising you. Personally, I didn't know it before I heard Grant Thornton were sponsoring Piece of the Prize, but I have gone to Grant Thornton myself in previous times when, actually, ironically, I'm finishing where we started with Mary McKenna, is when my business partner and I, for one of the businesses, when we set up, we went to them about the way in which to structure it so that it could allow people, if they were going to do more, they could be rewarded more, tax-wise and otherwise, and just the benefit of getting the right advice is hugely, hugely beneficial. So I know that Assumpta is going to benefit hugely from that. So Sandra, can I ask you to please take the floor? I'm going to spotlight you here, and I am also just going to share the website over here, and you might just tell us a little bit about the Empower Start program.
Okay, well, thank you, Suzanne. What a wonderful morning we've had. It's been great to hear from everybody, so thank you for joining us. I really want to take the opportunity right now to remind anybody who doesn't already know that we have our applications open at the moment for our Empower Start program. Now, we run two programs on the Empower program. One is Start, and this is for anybody in early stage startup. We say up to about 18 months. And we also run Empower Growth, and this is for people who are established in business who want to scale and grow their business. So, as Maria mentioned earlier, we have had a huge response to the program. We've had the opportunity, because the Department of Justice and Equality have given us the funds to run this second Empower program and to roll it out across 6 counties. So we're very fortunate to be able to include Donegal, Leitrim and Roscommon in Empower too. And we've been working now with the Sligo Innovation Centre and the CoLab in Letterkenny. So if you're motivated and if you are interested in a startup business and you want some support, you want some training, you want some business mentoring, and you want to benefit from the peer-to-peer learning in this wonderful network that we have here in the West of Ireland, I'm going to invite you to apply for our Empower Start program. So as you can see there, you can register online on empowerher.ie. Now the closing date is this Friday, okay? So you only have a few days left to apply. And also if you're listening in today and you think, well, look, maybe this is not for me, I also invite you to share the word. So you may have a friend, you may have a neighbor, you may have another colleague who's been talking about setting up in business. If they want the support that we have to offer, please spread the word. And back to you, Suzanne.
Perfect. Thank you so much indeed for that. And I mean, it really is, it's a fantastic opportunity. So all that's left for me to do now is a couple of things. I want to read out a couple of more comments. Mary said, as Susan mentioned earlier, I've recently launched Awaken Hub with a few friends. Now this is all about female founders and finance. So people who are seeking to raise money, but also to be in an environment around people who want to go after the scale that the like of Niamh McKenna spoke about, the way Lorraine has done so, the way our digital influencers are. So just wanted to mention that. I just want to say that we do need to thank sincerely the Department of Justice and Equality they are the reason that the Empower programme can happen, and that and with the help of the other sponsors can make sure that a day like today can happen. We'd also like to thank Jeanette from the Sligo Innovation Centre and Patsy Colab in Letterkenny as well. Thanks so much for all that you've done. Maria Staunton is currently on the chat, and she's thanking so many people right across the area. So just want to mention all of those as well. I would be here for an hour if I was to read out all of the comments over the last while from people who have been saying about all of what they've got out of the morning. So we want to certainly appreciate that as well. Just to let you know again, the evening event is taking place tonight. You're all going to get an email about that. I'm going to be on the empowerher.ie Facebook page in about an hour, and I'm going to read out all of my summaries. So you will get a chance to get the summaries of each of the speakers. I'm going to go on live, and feel free if you have any comments. Absolutely, we'll happily take them, and also we'll tag each of the speakers in there as well. Now, all that I've left to do is to say thank you so much for your tweets, for your participation, for being with us, for voting, for all of the things and all of the great environment that you've created. I cannot thank Sandra and Maria enough. They have been absolutely amazing to work with. It has just been truly an amazing project to work on. I've been working with them now. Would you believe the first time I spoke to Maria was when phase 2 opened, and it was our first day back at the office. So we've been working on this for months, and it's a true credit to both of them that today has gone like it's gone. So thank you to each and every one of you. Every best wish for an amazing week ahead, and also in each and every single one of your businesses. Thanks to all of the panelists, the speakers, the participants, everyone. Wish you all the very best, and all gone well. We'll see you this evening. Thank you all, and goodbye.